where you can't make decisions for yourself, both from a financial point of view or from a care point of view. You can appoint someone today, whilst you've got capacity, through a document called a lasting power of attorney, and you give them the power to basically make decisions as if they were you and look after you.
Right.
And again, there's a flip side to that, which is if you don't have that document, you're then having to go through something called a court of protection. And again, we're into it's government again.
And there are fees. There are
expensive, but worse than that, the cost is prohibitively expensive, truthfully. But worse than that,
excuse me,
the length of time that your loved one, assuming it's the right person that tries to take control of your affairs, by the way, but it's the length of time that it takes to go through that process. Everything we're talking about this morning, truthfully, is selfless. You will definitely get something out of it because you've done it, and I think Charlotte will testify because, you know, Charlotte's one of our senior consultants. She looks after our consultants. Everyone who goes through a consultation and goes through this process, they always finish it with, "Thank you, I'm glad I sorted that out." And sometimes there's a way.
Well, I can imagine, because I am genuinely going to do this as well for, you know, to take care of my affairs and my estate, you know, because I'm not, none of us are getting any younger, as they say. Basically, what I love is that you take the assumptions that I had are that it would be expensive, it would be scary, it would be difficult, it would be complicated. I'd be asked things that I couldn't answer. And it would just, you know, and so for that reason, I just never even thought about it. But you can see, ladies and gentlemen, it's very affordable. There are multiple payments available as well. All you have to do tonight is sign up for the offer. You don't have to have any information tonight. You will be called back, and then that you will basically schedule your consultation, and that will happen at the time that is convenient for you. So all you're doing tonight is signing up. Now, there are two types of LPA, is that right?
There are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one is property and financial affairs.
Yeah.
This is more, well, anything financial really. So whoever you nominate can access your bank accounts, can pay your bills, can manage your property, keep everything running as it should be really.
Yeah.
The other document is health and welfare. So this one's more of an emotional side. Again, whoever you choose can decide where you're living, the medication that you're receiving, even down to what you're eating and what you're wearing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow,
yeah,
really?
Which might seem trivial, but...
We'll go into it in more detail soon, because I know that there is a lot, and we have got 3 hours, so we really can take our time and explain this very, very clearly for you. But again, have a look at these offers. All you're doing right now is deciding to sign up to secure the deal. You've got to secure the deal within really the next few days. In fact, I believe close of business on Wednesday. Close of play on Wednesday, the offer goes away. So for just a family and estate will, it's normally that service costs £209. You have a very special Shop on TV offer price of £99. That saves you £110, and you can spread the cost interest free over 4 monthly instalments of £24.75. So you got a will. 99 quid, boom, you got a will. You're sorted. You're taken care of. Lasting power of attorney normally is £349. We have a special price of £199 for interest-free instalments of £49.75, and you're going to save £150 there. And then our best value offer, which is the one I'm going to do, I'd recommend it, but it's entirely up to you. At the very least, get a will, if nothing else. £269 is the Shop on TV price versus £558, which saves you £289, and you can do 4 payments of £67.25. Plus, the first 250 clients will also receive a free What My Family Should Know book worth £25. I know I've heard this said before, this book should be published on its own. It's phenomenal. It's a book that contains all the information about absolutely everything, every account, every online account, even music streaming service, I mean, you name it. Passwords, everything that a relative or a loved one would need to have in order to sort of manage your estate once you have shuffled off your mortal coil, as Shakespeare would say. But how do you do it? So there are several ways, 3 in fact. Number 1, you can go to simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. That's simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. That will take you to a landing page. We'll show you that in a moment. You can also call 0333 600 2600. That's 0333 600 2600. There are agents standing by right now to take your call and answer your questions. Again, there is no consultation tonight. You don't have to have any documents or anything with you or any form of identification or anything like that at all. All you're doing is securing the deal, locking in the deal, and then, but you know, if you have any questions about it, they are qualified to answer those questions as well. Now, the most popular way is very simple. Text the word WILL, W-I-L-L, to 66777 on your mobile phone. Excuse me. And what that will do is you will then get a call back later today after 11 a.m. So it'll be at a reasonable time considering the hour that it is now. And then you will basically be able to discuss your needs, lock in your deal, and then schedule your consultation. So when you do go to simplelaw.co.uk/shop on TV, this is the page that you'll be greeted with. Well, actually, you can go to our website first if you want and scroll down, and there's Simpler Law. But if you go direct, you'll come to the same page. There it is, the phone number is there, all of the offers, and all we need in the way of information from you is that. As you can see, your details. But I mean, it could not be simpler. And then go to the next page, set it all up, secure your deal, and you are basically on your journey to securing your whatever, whether it's the will and the lasting power of attorney, or just the lasting power of attorney. You're making, this is the thing, you're making such a positive decision for yourself, aren't you?
And arguably, that the hardest thing to do in for your family is picking up the phone, sending the text, or filling in the form. Because making that first step, once you made that decision, you never ever regret making a will, but your family might regret that you didn't. You know, we see both sides of the coin because, of course, we help families. It doesn't lessen a bereavement. If you lose someone that you love, you lose someone that you love. But what a will does, it doesn't make that situation worse because you planned and you took control and you said, this is what I want to happen. And that's what happens. Right. If you pass away without a will, and certainly, as we've explained earlier, if your family is, you know, a dynamic blended family, a bad time can be made so much worse. So making a will is really selfless, and no one ever regrets doing it because there's nothing to regret about looking after your assets.
It's a funny time. I've only the one sort of really prominent death in my family was my grandmother. She wasn't even my sort of biological grandmother. She was the wife of my biological grandfather, but she was like a second mother to me.
But known to you as your gran, if you like.
Yeah, completely. And I just remember when she died, and we were so close. All of these family members that we hadn't seen for years all suddenly came out of the woodwork, and they were literally going through the cupboards, and I remember it vividly. I was only about 16, picking out stuff, grabbing whatever. I mean, it was a free-for-all, and it was very, very upsetting for a lot of us, you know. So I guess this is where you know, you want to avoid these situations.
Control's a big word, I think, and I think, you know, the second that you decide to take control, that's never a bad thing. You know, you've worked hard for everything that you've got, you know, and I'm sure if you sat down and thought about it for a second, you know exactly what you want to happen when you pass away. But unfortunately, as we keep labouring this point, unless you take control and make your own will, it'll be a set of rules that were designed in 1925 that will make that decision for you. Yeah. And some people are quite, you know, they're exasperated by the fact that, well, this isn't what Dad wanted or this isn't what Mum wanted. Unfortunately, the law is the law, so unless you make your own will, you will get the government will. So please do something amazing.
I just want to point this out. It's a silly thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway because I'm renowned for saying silly things. But the word will itself, it's your will. Thy will be done. This is about you. This is you taking control of your assets, your belongings, your treasured possessions, and making sure they don't accidentally fall into the wrong hands. And they can, again, with the laws of intestacy. You might not even know it. You might think you're safe, but I mean, I'm sure you've got stories of people who thought they were all perfectly fine, you know. But before we do that, actually, we've got, just to show what you can do with a will, here are some of the benefits. Sorry, I need to turn my producer up because I couldn't hear her very well. There we are. There we go. Choose your own executors. Now, why is that important? Should we go through it very quickly and just sort of, you know, give us a word on each or a couple of words on each?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is all about control. Again, when you don't make your own will, you don't even know who's going to deal with your estate. When you make your will, you decide your chosen loved ones. Our consultants will take you through all the options that you've got with that and talk through what's the best thing for you. Yep. Obviously, the key there is you decide who inherits from your estate and not the government will. That's obviously the crux of a will. Yeah. But there's lots of other things there. We know for a fact that when we're speaking to parents or grandparents and they've got minor children, the vast majority of them actually would prefer their children not to inherit at 18. They'd rather be a little bit more responsible at 21, 23. You know, and again, there was a client recently who actually wanted to phase the inheritance to the children, so they were getting a percentage at 18, a percentage at 21, a percentage at 23, and again, it's just taking control and making sure that people benefit at a time that's right for them. But you can't do any of that unless you make your own will. So all the other, and staying with children, I mean, guardianship is a really big thing for parents as well.
Absolutely.
Well, and also, if you're an only parent, then presumably also custody of children and things like that. Does that come into that as well?
That's exactly it. So,
that's what you mean. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And you know, and again, most parents would have an idea or a concrete idea of, if God forbid the worst happened to me, I would want my child to be brought up by this family or this person. And you can do that in a will. And I think there's a lot of people don't realise that a will does so much more than just saying, this is where I want my cash to go.
It's not even just about where it's going, because you can actually put down in there who you don't want to inherit from.
Well, I was going to say that you might want to specifically exclude certain people.
People that are estranged now from their relatives. So again, it's all about you having the choice.
Is there a story you tell about that where? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, there's it stayed with me because I actually saw it on another television show, and obviously it resonated because of what we do, and it was heartbreaking to listen to. But basically, I'll say young guy because I'm at an age now where he was young. He was only in his 40s, so obviously, you know, we'll never know why he didn't make a will. But this young man passed away, and the backstory was that when this young man was born, his father left his mum. Obviously, we don't know the context of that, but his father left his mum and had nothing to do with the family. So mum brought up 2 boys on her own.
Right.
And they never heard from the father, no birthday cards, no contact, nothing.
Yeah.
And so he became quite successful in his own right. He himself never married, and he never had any children of his own. And then he suddenly passed away. I think it was a pulmonary embolism. It's something to do with the blood clot. So totally unexpected. Life is cruel sometimes. We all know that. He passed away unexpectedly and suddenly. And then all of a sudden it came to light that he passed away without a will, so he's died intestate, so the government will is now going to decide what happens to his estate. And the first question that's asked of the deceased is, are you married or in a civil partnership? The answer was no. The next question therefore is, do you have children? The answer in this case was no. The next question was, do you have parents? And the answer was yes. And his estate was split equally between his parents. So essentially his mum had to track down her ex-husband who'd walked out decades ago and say, our youngest son has passed away, and by the way, you're entitled to half of his estate. And any reasonable or rational person, whilst we can't know for sure, would suggest that had you been able to ask that gentleman, would you want your dad who you've never met to inherit? I think
he was so out of the picture you probably wouldn't have even thought about.
No, and I think this comes back to assumption, and I understand why you can only know what you know, but I understand why people sometimes put off making will because they think, oh well, it'll be okay because we've been together 20 years, or it'll be okay because our children know what we want to happen. But that isn't enough because that's not legally binding, and of course we live in a country of law.
Well, also when you want to make sure everything is done correctly, you go to experts, don't you? You know, I mean, I know there are templates. We'll talk about By the way, one of the reasons I'm still legally married because we used a template.
Ian loves
useless. We'll talk. Let's touch on it now. Why shouldn't I just go and get it out of the way? Go on, get it off your chest, Ian. Why shouldn't we use a template?
Well, I think you've just hit the nail on the head. That you've obviously tried to do something with the template and it hasn't quite worked because, again, and this isn't a criticism of anyone. I don't know anything. Some people argue I don't know anything about this, but I don't know anything particularly outside of my profession. So I always use the argument that, I had a really dodgy tooth recently and I've had to have 5 visits to the dentist, who was an absolute amazing dentist and taught me through everything that I needed to do. I'm saying just rip it out, but he convinced me to have a root canal and told me all the reasons why. It was very good. But I wouldn't have dreamt of trying to do anything myself.
Well, you didn't go down the pub and talk to your mate James?
I didn't. James couldn't help me on that one. No. And, I get in a car and I push the start button and that's about as much as my engineering skills are.
Right.
I sometimes lift a bonnet and go, yes, there's an engine there, because you can know what you know.
Well, they say a little knowledge is dangerous, isn't it? And it can be catastrophic when it comes to estate planning.
Well, truthfully, one of the most frustrating things that we can see, and it's selfish to say we get frustrated, is when we come across a template where someone's attempted to do their own will, which shows it demonstrates that they knew they needed a will. But if it's not done correctly, and quite often it's failed because it's not signed, dated and witnessed correctly, or they've not understood terminology, or they've not understood things like the difference between a first death and second death when they're writing wills together.
Well, because why? How would you? You're not, you know.
Well, I'm sure that made no sense.
You think you've done everything right.
Made no sense to a lot of people now when I said first death and second death, but there's certain times when you want something to be passed on, certain times when you don't want something to be passed on. We've taught you through all of that.
There's no advice in a template, is there?
I'm probably making this sound more complicated than it needs to be, but that's Charlotte and her team's job.
Well,
to actually talk to you about your situation.
Let's talk about simpler law, shall we? So, and you may be lucky enough to get Charlotte herself. Is that right? You never know.
Absolutely.
You never know. There are 2 Charlottes, so you've got pot 50-50 chance of getting at least one.
I'll be honest,
Charlotte.
Rob, the other one's better.
Oh, okay, fine.
That was brave, wasn't it?
Why simpler law? Why do we come to you and not anyone else?
This is all that we do, and we're professionals, we're trained professionals, and we pride ourselves in it being a hand-holding service. We've got 5-star Trustpilot reviews, which we're really proud of.
Yeah.
But those Trustpilot reviews are named, so they're saying Charlotte.
I see Charlotte a lot. Yes, yeah. The other one,
Jack or Shane
Yes.
has done this for me because it's personal. Right from the beginning, all we're asking you to do today is just make that first step.
Right.
We'll lead you through the rest. We'll call you at a time that is suitable for you in the comfort of your own home.
Yes.
Sit in bed with a cup of tea if you really want to.
Yeah.
And we'll go at your pace.
Now, I want to ask you, because this is where I'm on your behalf, ladies and gentlemen, I want to kind of drill you a bit here. So often you see these offers and you go, cool, that's a great offer. It's like when you buy a certain make, there's a particular make of 3-letter car where you buy the car and they're going, it's a great price, and you think, woo! And then they say, by the way, the extras you need to buy are tyres, steering wheel, rear view mirror, gearbox, you know. So by the time you've actually built the car, I know you have other services that you can provide to people if they need them and want them. But is 99 quid really going to get me a will? Is 199 really going to get me a lasting power of attorney done, dusted?
Absolutely, and we're an advisory service as well. We can give you advice based on your circumstances. Whether you take that advice or not is entirely up to you.
Yeah,
but that will get you the basic will, absolutely.
Yeah.
And to be really clear, if you secure this deal tonight, and that's, if you do that, you've done something amazing for yourself and your family, honestly. But if you secure the deal tonight, and when you get to your consultation, you're not happy with anything, that something like Charlotte says, if you're not happy with the process at all, we'll give you your money back.
So there's a money-back guarantee on everything.
100%.
So you have everything to gain and literally 0 to lose. Well, what you have to lose is all your belongings and things, where, you know, when you pass away. Unfortunately, as someone once said to me, it's one of my favourite sayings, none of us are getting out of here alive. And I know it's not a nice thing to think about. No one wants to think about their own mortality. And also no one wants to think about the fact that you just unfortunately don't know. We were chatting earlier, and both Ian and I have friends acquaintances who did everything right in their life. They ate right, they exercised, they literally did all of the recommended, if you do all of this, you'll be healthy for the whole of your life, and then contracted a terminal disease, and out of the blue. You just don't know. And again, this is not to sort of in any way put fear, amongst you, because we know things can happen. Life can throw you a curveball. The fact is that this is empowering you. This is giving you an opportunity to sort of take life by the cojones and decide, have your will enacted, have what you want done by the letter of the law. And have you ever had a will fail?
No.
In how many years?
Well, I've been doing this 25 years. I've never known a will fail.
Charlotte was very young when you started. Never had one fail.
No. We carry professional indemnity insurance that insures us for £5 million. And when I say us, it actually insures our clients. So if we gave you advice or we did something wrong that cost you or your estate, if we created a loss, you're insured £5 million. That's how confident we are.
But do wills fail?
Yes, they can be drafted incorrectly. Yeah. I mean,
any examples of that?
Well,
how long? Sorry, we're already on the air for another 2 hours. Yeah.
Well,
we want to show the offers again. My producers, sorry, I tend to go off. I fly solo when I'm doing this, but here is what you're getting tonight. And again, all you have to do is make potentially 2 very simple decisions. Do you want a will? Do you want a lasting power of attorney? Or do you want both? And we'll go into the lasting power of attorney in more detail so you know whether that is something that you need. It's basically, if you're incapacitated, giving someone you nominate the ability to act on your behalf, either for your health concerns or your estate concerns, your money in your house and things like that. We'll come to that in more detail. The will itself is that no matter what it is, if you want to leave your collection of magpies to your next door neighbour, you know, it doesn't matter what it is, whatever you want to do. If you don't want Bernard to get anything from you because you ate Bernard, because you fell out when you were teenagers and that Bernard's never getting anything from it, you know, it doesn't matter. What you want, you get enacted with a will. And you can get a will not for £209 today. You can save £110 and get it for just £99, and that's complete, fully, you know, signed off, ready, you know, nothing else necessary, for 4 payments, also interest-free payments if you wish, if you don't want to pay for it all in one go, £24.75. If you want the lasting power of attorney, excuse me, £349 is what it would normally cost you. £199 is the shop on TV price. And again, you can spread the cost, £49.75 a month if you wish, and save £150. And then if you wanted the best value for money, that's your will and your lasting power of attorney. Normally that would be $558. So you can see from the standard retail prices, actually, you know, they're very affordable, they're very reasonable, but they, you know, they really do, I think, embody what you would expect these things to cost. But you've got to take advantage of the shop on TV price, because you're getting them for massive savings. And all you have to do now is literally just say, right, I basically want to secure my offer, and if you're one of the first 250 people, you'll get the free book as well. Nothing else is needed tonight. You don't need any information. You're not going to have to talk for hours on the phone. You're not going to have to give over any personal information whatsoever tonight. This is just about basically securing the offer, getting the deal, because those prices go back to normal. The offer goes away at close of business on Wednesday, so you have a limited amount of time in order to get the special offer. You can either go to simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. That will take you to a special landing page with a form that you can fill in on the website, or you can go to or call 0333 600 2600. That's 0333 600 2600, and operators are standing by from Simpler Law right now. They are there until 3 a.m. and you can leave your information, secure your deal, ask any questions, and get yourself signed up that way. Or, and this is the way a lot of people do it, if you're just sitting in front of the TV, vegging out, listening to us basically enrapture you with our dynamic personalities, then all you need to do is get your phone and just text. Go to your regular text message service and type in the word will and then send that off to the number 66777. Doesn't have to be a capital W, I don't think, just will to 66777. And if you have any questions or inquiries directly that you want to answer or have answered, then you can email inquiries@simplerlaw.co.uk. Is that inquiries with an I or with an E? It's with an I. Oh, it's with an I over here, isn't it? Oh, it's an E.
Yeah.
Do we do E in England? Sorry, forgive me. That's one word I haven't used since I've come back from America.
Are you all Americanised now, Rob?
Yeah, I'm bits Americanised. It's weird. And then you have these words that I've used a lot over there that I haven't used since I've moved back, and then my brain kind of short circuits. Yeah, basically. So, what was that, Leslie? That's an excellent question. Leslie would like to know, what is an LPA?
Charlotte.
Over to me.
Charlotte's an LPA. Yeah.
So, lasting power of attorney. So this is a document you hope you never need, but you have just in case that curveball does come.
Right.
And you do lose your capacity for any reason. Could be ill health, could be a freak accident, but whatever that is.
Is it specifically physical capacity or mental capacity or a mixture of both?
Well, it could be a mixture of both. Mainly mental capacity, but it could work physical as well. Get families to go down to the bank for you.
Okay.
So there's 2 types of lasting powers of attorney. One is property and financial affairs.
Okay.
So this one I think a lot of people can relate to, because money makes the world go round.
Yeah, sure.
Lost your capacity.
No.
So this allows you to nominate, again, who you trust. It's all about having the choice.
Yes.
So who you trust to access your bank accounts.
Pensions I see on there as benefits and allowances.
Yeah,
and
claiming
things.
pensions. Because again, these things don't stop.
No,
You've
sure.
lost your capacity.
Yeah.
So managing,
excuse me.
sure they are still running as they should.
Yeah.
Paying bills, managing property. You might have rental properties.
You might.
Got to keep that income coming in and out.
Or renting a property. You'd have to, you know, you wouldn't be able to deal with a landlord.
Exactly right. So anything from a financial point of view, it's you nominating that person or people. You can have multiple people on there as well.
Oh, okay.
To act together.
And that's legally binding, so that all of the official institutions will recognise that lasting power of attorney.
Yeah, that was far from. Sorry, Charlotte. That was far from an exhaustive list on the graphic there. I think the summary at the bottom is perfect, because essentially the person that you choose is obviously going to be someone that you trust, or people that you trust.
Yeah.
In the eyes of the institutions, the companies that you deal with, you become them. So, Rob, if I named you as my attorney, and we got all the lasting power of attorney documents set up, if I've lost capacity, you can register it on my behalf, or the client can choose to register it straight away with something called the Office of the Public Guardian. Depending on your personal circumstances, the Office of Public Guardian charge a registration fee that goes from £0 to £82, but £82 is the most that you would pay to the Office of Public Guardian.
I see.
But once it's registered with them, the person that you've nominated as the attorney, in the eyes of that institution, becomes you. So that's how powerful it is. And we do, and quite rightly so, we do take for granted waking up in the morning, throwing our quilt back and just getting on with our day, and we don't necessarily think about the things that we do. But if, God forbid, that day came where you didn't throw the quilt back, who would step into your shoes, who would make decisions about you, and who would do the stuff that you would normally do?
Because presumably, I suppose if you pass away, then the will, the banks and all these institutions, they have to.
That's where your executors take
your
over with
executors
the will.
take over with that. But yeah, if you're still alive, but not in a necessarily a meaningful way. Although, actually, let me ask you this: it might be a dumb question, forgive me, but I know when I moved to the States, I nominated my father gave him power of attorney to deal with a lot of my stuff over here. Could you use that for that as well?
Absolutely.
So you don't have to be incapacitated.
No, it's not always negative. You know, there are people who do work away. There are people who are away for periods of time.
Yeah.
You know, there are people who generally have got all the faculties and would just rather their son or their daughter help them out. This is all personal choice. Truthfully, the vast majority of people that make the same reason my wife and I have got them is you hit the nail on the head. These are documents that you want to have, but then hope that you never need to use them. That means you've had your health and there's been no issues.
Well, it's like vaccinations. It's like, you know, or think of it as a passport. You might not, you might never use your passport, or you might use it very rarely, but you need to have it because you can't go abroad if you don't.
Do you know what they're like? But they're not insurance policies, but they're like insurance.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's, you know, if you think about it, we will insure our pets, we'll insure our rabbits and dogs and cats, and I get that, and we'll insure our phones. Insure our house, we'll insure our car, we'll insure our boiler.
Yeah.
And and we'll pay all this
boiler.
and we'll pay all this money out for all this period of time, hoping that we never, make a claim on it. But we'll pay out for all these things to insurance. Sometimes we forget to look after ourselves. And we forget to look after our loved ones.
These prices are nothing as well when you think about it. I mean, I think I pay £30 a month for my contents insurance for my flat, and I've been paying it for what, 5-6 years. Haven't ever claimed on it. There's a lot of money. I'm just adding it up in my head now. It's like, blimey, you're paying all that money just on the off chance, and the chances are you might never need it.
And these are one-off payments as well.
One-off, exactly. No month.
You can just keep it somewhere safe. And just hope you never need it. But if you do, it's there.
All right. So. Property and such, but the other one, of course, is health as well. Talk us through this one, if you would.
So yeah, this one is, as I say, more emotional a lot of the time, because again, it's who you trust to make decisions, but this could be about where you're living. So if it's a family member, they might want you to live at home with them, rather than be in care, for example. But again, they can't make that decision without that document. They can discuss down to what you're wearing, what you're eating.
Really?
Which, as I said earlier, it sounds trivial, but if you're a vegetarian, your loved ones are only going to know that.
So you can make sure your loved one, you've got the LPA, and you nominate that person that they're fully aware of what you want.
Yeah, and just making sure you're happy and you're still yourself, and even down, which you bring us up quite a lot, Ian, is who's actually visiting you. If you are in a care home, because there could be those estranged family members who you outright don't want to visit you. Without that power of attorney, having someone nominated, they can't be your voice. You're just giving.
That's so important. This is a specific example, but it's very rare, I know. And I think they call it locked-in syndrome, something like that. And when I read about this particular syndrome, the people who suffer from that are completely incapacitated physically, but mentally they're as sharp as as any of us.
Fully aware of what's
happening. And I just thought, I can't imagine if I'd been sat in front of a TV and had to watch a particular type of TV show or something that I hated, you know. But just to make sure that somebody, if I were in that situation, knew exactly what I wanted that would keep me happy, or as happy as I could be, and was able to enact that. I mean, I know it's a very specific example, but
no, but you're right. The two types are, you know, truthfully, in 2007 when the power of attorney, if you like, was split into property and affairs and health and welfare. My background was financial services sort of 30 years ago, so I understood that money makes the world go round, so I was very quick to understand the usefulness and power of property and financial affairs and health and welfare.
Yeah.
But then you start hearing these stories where daughters have taken the mum out of a care home to bring them home to care for them, or they've brought them out even just for things like Christmas Day, and they're being arrested because they haven't got the power to do that.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's because they have rules. Yeah.
Well, again, we assume lots of things. And again, I'll swap out the word assume. I think we hope lots of things. But I always ask people to think about something for 1 second. If you just think about finances, whether you're married or not, can you today, whilst your wife has capacity, go into her bank and say, I'm married to my wife, can I just get £100 out of her account? Of course, the answer will be no. And yet somehow there's an assumption that if your wife has now lost capacity, so she's actually now a vulnerable person, so she's more protected, that suddenly you can go into the bank and the bank will say, oh, now she can't give you authority, we'll give you that money. It just never happens, and unfortunately people only find that out when the worst has already happened.
Well, you've given us some examples of what happens when if people don't have an LPA, but what are some more illustrative examples that you could, if you know, I become incapacitated and I don't have somebody with a lasting power of attorney, where does that leave me?
Deputyship order.
I hear us both go.
This is awful, but you
yeah, so essentially it's too late at that point. If you haven't got a power of attorney, you've lost your capacity.
Right.
The only way anyone can apply to be attorney for you is by applying through what's called a court of protection. The thing with this is
and here is that right? £1,322.
Yeah.
If you do it yourself.
You do it yourself.
Yeah, if you do it yourself, and this is only from a financial point of view. So you can see just to apply there, it's £408. Further down there, because there's a supervision fee of £320. That's annually. So that's ongoing.
Really? Yeah. Every year?
So every year. And we've just said that's doing it yourself. That's not even getting a professional to do that for you. It's not just the fees, it's the time.
Right.
At the minute, it's taking anywhere around 12 to 18 months to go through court of protection.
So that person is just completely,
during that time,
stuffed, basically.
You can't do anything, exactly. And worst case scenarios, very worst case scenarios, that person might have passed away during that time. So you've applied for all of this, you've spent this money, you've started that process, but not actually been able to achieve what you need to.
1322 with 320 ongoing every single year versus £199 from Simply
And
Law.
the peace of mind. Exactly, because although that person hasn't passed away with lost capacity, you're still grieving for that person.
Yeah,
because they're obviously unwell. So then add on top the paperwork, the price, the time. It's just not worth it.
This is exactly why I never did anything about any of this, because I was just too fearful or just couldn't be faffed with all of the hassle. Because let's face it, if you do it through the government route, it is a hell of a faff and a lot of hassle.
Well, you also don't know who's going to attend court. It might not be the person you would have chosen for yourself, and of course you've got no say in it now, because the reason that someone's going to court to try and get this deputyship order is because you can't make that decision for yourself. So this all comes full circle back to taking control. You then decide, look, I trust my son, I trust my daughter, I trust my wife, I trust my husband, whatever, but you choose who you would want to step into your shoes. And then, of course, you cross your fingers and you go, I hope they never need to use it. But you've done something absolutely amazing for your loved ones. You've done something brilliant for yourself, because you know you're going to be taken care of by the people that you trust. There's going to be no ifs, buts and maybes.
Yeah.
But as Charlotte just said, not having a lasting power of attorney makes a bad situation worse, because now your family, instead of caring for you and being able to step straight into your shoes, are having to deal with this legal process just to even be able to manage your money or decide what you have for your tea. It's an awful situation, but again, that's the legal position, and people get flabbergasted when they say, but that's my mum, you must know that I want the best for her. And
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what
there's
people,
a difference between legal.
Your family, your family will know that you want the best for your mum, but unless you've got the legal authority to make those decisions for your mum, and I'm using that as a prime example.
Well, it could be also deciding whether it's making life and death decisions in some cases as well, isn't it? You know, whether that person, you know, has a DNA, a do not resuscitate, you know, or their desire not to be resuscitated.
That's selfless. People don't want to talk about this stuff, and you don't have to dwell on it. When you speak to someone like Charlotte, I promise you, weirdly, clients.
Have fun sometimes.
Yeah, it's quite a cathartic process.
Yeah.
We only have to be in a dark place for a minute or two. You know, if the worst happened yesterday, what would you want to see happen? Or if the worst happened and you lost capacity, who would you want to step into your shoes?
Forgive me laughing, because I've got a very mild something. My director's like, "Are you all right, Robbie? You all right?"
Yeah.
I know. It's really like,
a little bit.
So to avoid the fees, obviously, we come to you, £199. What do we need to do? What do we have to have ready? Now, it's not tonight. Tonight, you are just basically securing the offer. You will then get a call back, and you will have a consultation, and that's when all of the sort of the business will be done. So what do you need to do to get your LPA sorted?
Absolutely nothing. You just need to make the choice today to say you want to do it. We'll take care of the rest. You don't have to have anything ready. You don't even have to know all the answers. That's what we're there for.
Right.
You'll have.
But when you do your consultation, you'll know exactly what you need to provide.
Absolutely, yeah.
We give our clients, we help our clients prepare for the appointment, but don't worry if you don't feel fully prepared for the appointment, because that's our job.
Yeah.
And you know, you'll agree that some clients are just click of fingers, they know exactly what they want, they've got all the answers, and it's done in as little as half an hour. Sometimes even less. Sometimes it might take longer because people need to think about various things. It doesn't matter to us. We'll go at the pace that's right for you. But ultimately, at the end of it, you asked earlier, you know, if you pay £99, do you get a will? Do you have to do anything else? No, you will always get the document that you want.
Yeah.
We will give you advice along the way. We will share our expertise with you. But at the end of the day, it's up to you how much of our advice you take, if any. But we guarantee that at the end of it, it will be your will that's right for you. And we guarantee at the end of it, it'll be a lasting power.
Because if you're not happy, you can just get your money back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it really...
Speaking to Charlotte, quite often people say, oh, look, do you know... but in all seriousness, I mean, if you're talking about...
Excuse me. Yeah.
There's no risk to making your own will, and there's no risk to making a lasting power of attorney. And there's no risk to securing these deals tonight, because honestly, at the consultation, even if you go all the way through the consultation and you get to the end of it and go, do you know what? I didn't like any of that. I'm very unhappy. Just say I want my money back. Yeah. But when you get to the end of the consultation... Everyone says thank you, and I'm glad I've spoken. Well, actually, I wouldn't be, because I've spoken to a lot of people who've been through your consultations, and it's actually a very pleasant process. And it's so funny, because we were talking about funeral homes earlier, and I sometimes get the impression, and I have some experience with funeral homes. I shot a film in a funeral home, funnily enough. As you do. And it's interesting which day you show up as to what smells you get. But no, I had very in-depth conversations with the people who run the home. It's a fascinating subject. It scares a lot of people, but also it is a fact. Unfortunately, death is a fact of life. Unless we discover immortality in the next few years, all of us, everyone watching now, including myself, will at some point, we will cease to be, at least in this physical form. And you've got a choice. You've got two choices, actually. Number one, you just hope for the best, hope it all works out. And if it doesn't, oh, well, you'll be dead. Doesn't matter. Well, but everyone else will. All the people you care about and love will have to deal with it. The mess that could be left purely because you didn't take a moment to make sure that your affairs were in order for all of them, and that you excluded people you wanted excluded, if that's applicable, and included people you wanted included. And so the other choice is very simple. You decide right now, or in the next few moments, that you are going to sign up for Simpler Law and get yourself a lasting will of attorney, £100. Goodness, not lasting power of attorney, sorry, family will and testament, or lasting power of attorney. You know, it cost me 20 quid for fish and chips these days. You know, it's just ridiculous. And so, look, it's nothing. It's a drop in the ocean, and it will be the most pleasant way, I think, that you can possibly get your will done. But more than anything else, even if you hated every minute of it, you still got a will at the end of it. And the fact is, it's a cast iron, watertight, legally enforceable will that will ensure that your will is done. Right? Yeah, and I don't want to come across as condescending, but we obviously, through Shop on TV and only through Shop on TV with his exclusive prices and the offer of the 4 interest-free payments, it's a little over 80 pence a day for those 4 months to get your will in place. So I'd like to think that we've genuinely removed the affordability angle, because most people think it's going to be really expensive. And I promise you, and I'm not being a sycophant, if you speak to Charlotte or one of the team, this is not morbid, this is not complicated.
No.
Our job, because this is what we do day in, day out, is to make it simple for you.
You must have had some of the most nervous, like really, like definitely nervous people on the phone. How do you handle that?
It's just a conversation. So it's just, you'd be surprised how quickly we get to know each other both ways. And it's just having that conversation, and most people that come on that are actually the most nervous are the ones that come out of their shell the most during and get to the end and go, oh, that wasn't actually that bad. Oh, that was really good, actually.
But also,
big weight lifted off my shoulders.
To use Ian's analogy of either the dentist or the car, you know, you don't go to the dentist and then assist the dentist with the root canal. You know, you don't hold his tools for him, you know. You don't hand the mechanic calipers and spanners and things like while they work. You go to them because they're going to do it for you.
But there is a real subtle difference here, though, because obviously if I take my car to a mechanic, he's going to do everything and I have no input at all because he's the expert. But actually here, we're here to facilitate your will and or your lasting power of attorney. Because we have all the questions, you definitely have all the answers, because it's your will,
whether you know
it's
it
your
or
lasting
not.
power of attorney.
But you don't know what people at home don't have, and what I wouldn't have is the questions. And this is why the templates can be, because you might think you've answered everything you need to answer, but you don't know what you don't know. These folks do. There is probably, in all the years you've been doing this, nothing that you haven't seen, done, you know, and got the T-shirt for when it comes to wills and lasting powers of attorney. So you know the questions to ask to make sure that everybody gets an absolutely complete, thorough service.
We have over 250,000 clients, so we've had a good swath of the UK general public. So there's more scenarios we come across. I can't think of a scenario where we're not being able to help someone, because again. And being brutally honest, some clients will phone up and it scares the consultant because they'll say, my case is really simple, and that's when you go, oh. And quite often when a client phones up and says, oh, I don't think you're going to like me because mine's really complicated, actually, we can deal with that, no problem at all. Don't let your belief that it might be difficult or morbid or complicated put you off, because I promise you it isn't.
No.
And whilst obviously there is an inevitability, and you're quite right, Rob, but, you know, we don't sit round the breakfast table going, let's talk about what happens when we die. But this is literally, this is just planning. You know, we plan for little things every day, we plan for big things. You know, all I'm seeing adverts for now, because it's January, is holidays. So people will be planning for a holiday and things like that.
Well, car insurance, we plan for what happens if we have a car crash. You know,
insurance is a big
thing.
We plan for lots of things.
We plan for in case our flat or house gets robbed or burned down, you know.
We struggle to plan for the inevitable because we just keep putting it off and putting it off and life gets in the way. So if you're listening, waffling this morning, Charlotte's colleagues are there now. If you phone 0333 600 2600, you're going to do something amazing for yourself and your family, and they'll be happy to take your call now. If you don't want to speak to us, and I totally get that at this early hour, if you text the word will to 66777, we'll call you back later today. We understand it's late now, so you'll get a call sort of after 11 o'clock later today. But that first step is actually, out of everything that you do, is the hardest thing to do, is just making that initial,
the initial contact, exactly.
I'm going to do it.
One small decision to make such an important change to your
What's
life.
freaking me out already is I feel like I came back to work after the Christmas break yesterday, and we're already halfway through January. Time just flies, and so, you know, it's one of those things. If you don't do it now, you'll go to bed and life will get in the way again. So you're probably sat with your phone right next to you now. Text the word will to 66777 and you won't regret that you did that.
Yeah, I can't wait to do mine. I really can't. Hopefully I get someone called Charlotte.
It's the other one, remember?
It's the other one. It's the other one, yeah. Can I have the other Charlotte, please? Yeah. Here are the prices once again. It's so affordable. And again, this is not a down payment. It's not a part pay. And, you know, you don't have to, you know, sign up for loads and loads of other stuff to get the complete service. This is everything that you need for a family and estate will. £209 normally. We've got it for through Simpler Law tonight, £99. 4 interest-free payments as well of £24.75 if you want to. You don't have to. You can pay for it all in one go if you like. Again, you get a full money-back guarantee. At any point down the line, if you are not happy, you get your money back. So this is basically, it is a down payment but for your future. And that's the important thing. And you're going to save £110 with the will. Excuse me. £199 for the lasting power of attorney. Normally £349. We've got it at £150 saving. 4 payments of £49.75. Or, I think probably this would apply to most people. If it's in your budget, I know this is what I'm going to do. Instead of £558 for £269 or 4 payments of £67.25, you can save a £289 on the will and LPA. So I thought I already asked this, but I'll ask it again. What happens once you've drafted your LPA? What happens next? Did we cover that?
Yeah, briefly, yeah. So once it's drafted, we need to make sure that it's signed correctly,
yes.
which again we can help you do. We can validate your documents, which we offer as a free service.
Right.
So we help you all the way through to make sure the documents are valid.
Yes.
Once they're signed, they do need to be registered with what's called the Office of Public Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can do this as and when you please. They do charge a registration fee, which at a maximum is £82.
Okay.
Depending on your situation, it can be less. But the main point of a power of attorney is you've got it and it's signed. It can be registered as and when you're happy to. It can be done straight away, it can be done later down the line.
Right.
The important thing is you've got it there.
Yeah. And presumably you notify the people that you've... Or would you discuss with who's going to have your lasting power of attorney before you sign up for it? I assume you would. But you talk through all of that.
Ideally, yeah. That's the conversation we have. Ideally, they obviously know that they've got that
They've got that role, yeah.
Exactly. So they know where the document is, they know where to find it, and they know what to do when should that situation occur.
Katie actually has just emailed in. She has a question about LPAs. Is there a time limit between setting up the LPA and registering it?
No.
Her parents have set one up, but they haven't got around to getting it signed yet.
Really, really important thing, because it's quite a bureaucratic organisation, is making sure that the document has been signed, dated and witnessed correctly. Now, we'll hold your hand through all that because it's a 20-page document, which can scare some people, but we'll break it down for you, and it's actually relatively straightforward to do. But again, when you know what you know, so we hold your hand through that, because we know lots of people that have gone away and drafted it and even tried to do it themselves again, and then when they've finally printed out all the paperwork, I'll put that in the drawer and I'll do it later. No, there's no time. Just to give you an idea, before lasting powers of attorney, there was a document called enduring powers of attorney.
Yes, yeah.
So they're going back years and years and years. They go back beyond 2007.
Right.
We're getting phone calls at our office today from sons and daughters of our clients who are saying, we've found this information. Sadly, my dad's just being diagnosed with dementia. Did he have anything with you? And we're like, yes, he did an enduring power of attorney with us. And that's being registered now when it might have been signed 20 years ago. Right. It's client preference. Some people will go, right, I want to do my documents now and I want to register them, even though everything's fine. I just want to know that they're good to go. Yeah. Or, truthfully, my wife and I have had these documents for years. They're in our secure storage facility, obviously where I work. That'd be funny if I didn't do that. But of course, our attorneys know where they are if, God forbid, anything happened to me. Because me and Jeannie have got each other as attorneys, but we've also got a couple of other people in case the worst happens to both of us together.
We'll talk later, actually. Yeah,
we talk. Again, it's client preference. I really want to stress that it's not our will, it's not our lasting power of attorney, it's not our house and it's not our family, it's yours. We're there to do what's right for you.
Just before we've got another email question. If, let's say, somebody already has a will, or they've done a template, or they've got a lasting power of attorney, or an enduring power of attorney, or they've got something they're not sure whether it is, like, legit.
Up to date, valid,
etc. Obviously, it won't apply to the pricing that we're showing on the screen, but can they also still contact you? And presumably, you would have, reasonable fees that you could.
No, they can take advantage of these offers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you've got a will that's out of date. Yeah. Because interestingly, where people sometimes say there's loads of surveys that are conducted, saying how many people have made a will, and it's a yes or no question. Have you got a will? The real question in these surveys should be, have you got a will? Is it up to date and is it valid? Right. Because actually there's people out there who think they've got a will, and you start talking to them, it's like, oh, I did it 10 years ago. And you're like, oh, did you do it with? Oh, I can't remember. Do you know where it is? And they go, and unless this document is found... Yeah.
We talked about this earlier, because I said, we've gone back to the will. Once you've made your will, you know, where'd you put it? I mean, my dad's got it in his drawer in his desk, you know.
But at least you know where it is.
But he told me where it was. Yeah. But do tell the story that you told earlier, because I thought that was quite funny.
Well, it's sad in one respect.
Sad but funny.
Yeah. No, I was at a conference recently and I was talking to another gentleman from a law firm, and he just explained that they'd had a sad case where a gentleman had died. He'd almost kept it a secret that he'd made a will, and the family found it, but they found it after they made all the decisions about his funeral requests and everything else. And he'd obviously not spoken to his family, because he got very clear requests.
This wasn't the funny story, by the way. This was the sad story, definitely.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I'm just clarifying so people don't think I'm a monster. Heartless monster.
No, sorry. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not funny. It's sad in a sense, but we're British, so our British humour is quite dark. This gentleman had gone to great lengths to set out everything that he wanted to do, and did it legally, but kept it a secret, so the family only found the document when it was too late. So,
can we share some of those extra details that you talked about? Because I think that was real. I mean, it was quite a powerful story you told me. Is that all right if I mention it, or
with the organ donation?
Well, the guy had specifically put in his will that he didn't want his organs donated and that he wanted to be buried whole.
He'd actually prepaid for a funeral. He'd actually bought a plot. He was incredibly selfish. He'd done everything right, according to the gentleman I was speaking to, apart from tell his family that's what he'd done.
And so they didn't know. To save costs, they had him cremated, and they donated his organs. So the complete opposite.
It was devastating. Oh. They did absolutely the opposite. So again, we will hold your hand through the whole thing. We will give you information. We will write to your executors if you want us to write to your executors. We will write to your guardians. We will contact the people that you want us to contact if you give us permission to do that.
You're a full service, basically.
We will do what's right for you. And everyone's situation is different. And that's, again, I think, where we don't treat everyone the same. We know that every document we write is unique. We know every time we do a consultation it's unique because it's you.
That's why when we talk, we'll go back to it later, when we talked about the laws of intestacy, the chances of that actually fitting with someone's exact circumstances are almost nil. It's like throwing a dart at a dartboard after you've been blindfolded and twisted around 15 times.
It's a default position. That's all it's ever been and all it ever can be. It's a default position.
We got a question. Who was the question from, Leslie? From Mark. So he wants to know, if you've got your will and your executor dies before you do, what happens?
Well, again, if you've spoken to someone, like an expert like Charlotte, and again, this is knowing what you know.
Yeah.
For a start, we would probably, we'd talk to you about how many executors and trustees you needed, depending on your circumstances.
Yes.
And we'd explain all of that to you. We would probably ask if you wanted a substitute executor in your will. So if, God forbid, your first choice was unwilling or unable to act, they could step up.
Sure, yeah.
And we talked to you about the options of being able to use a lay trustee, a professional trustee, or a combination of both. And also we talked to you about the fact that making a will today doesn't mean that you can't update it in the future, which is a question you asked a few minutes ago.
Right.
If you made a will 5 years ago and you don't think it's quite right for you now, you can make a new will.
For £99.
Yeah, you can make a new will that will revoke. Yeah. So if something changes in your position or something changes in the people that you've already nominated, you can simply update your will and revoke the previous one.
And then they just come back to you and sort that all out?
We do our very best to future-proof it. So the question that you asked there, we would often say, who would you want to step in if, God forbid, something like that did happen?
Right. Again, this is what happens when you go to the experts. If you try and do it yourself, and it's funny, I read online a lot of comments after particularly when I've seen your shows, and some people say, it's, templates are great, they're cheap, that, you can save a fortune, do a template. And again, I'm not bashing templates, maybe there are some good ones out there. It's not even necessarily the template that's the issue. It's you, and I mean it in a nice way, because you don't, unless you're a legal eagle, how do you know you mentioned, what was it, second death or something? You were talking about something on a template that I wouldn't have even known what that meant.
There was a case a few years ago. It came to us because one of the people affected was a client of ours, and they asked for our advice, and basically we learned that a gentleman who owned the house outright but had been married for years, so it's not uncommon for older couples that the house was just in the man's name. And he'd got 2 template wills, I believe, from the post office. And very simple, but he'd done them right, but he'd left cash gifts to his grandchildren And when he did the will, he had 3 grandchildren. And when he passed away, he had 8.
Ooh.
And in the will, it encouraged him to write what he wanted to gift and to, and he put to £20,000 to each of my grandchildren. So when he wrote that, he assumed that 60,000 was going out of the estate.
Yeah.
Now there's 160,000 going out of the estate.
Right.
But worse than that, because he owned the house outright, he'd written the cash gift ahead of it going to his wife. So in order for that cash gift to be made, it would have meant the sale of the property, which is not what they intended.
No.
And then when we asked about his widow's will, that mirrored his exactly. So there was £160,000 of cash gifts in that one as well. So it was going to be paid twice. And I might be making this sound overcomplicated, but we'll explain all this to you and ask you at what point, or tell you at what point it makes sense. And most married couples or couples together, if they're leaving cash gifts, and that happens a lot, it makes sense that you want to make that gift on second death after you've both passed away.
Right.
If I want to leave you a cash gift, which, let's be clear, Rob, I don't. If I want to leave you a cash gift, if I passed away yesterday, I want to make sure everything goes to my wife first, and then when my wife passes away, we'll make sure that gift goes to you.
Sorry.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
And the one thing about templates, the templates aren't bad as a template. They will do a basic job, but that's the problem.
Yeah.
They can't give you advice, and unless you...
They can't alter themselves to fit into your circumstances.
Truthfully, and I don't wish to sound arrogant, unless you're a qualified will writer or you are an expert in this area, I don't know why you'd write your own will.
And that's what Simpler Law are. I mean, and not just that, but also award-winning as well. I mean, you know, that you've been doing this for a very, very long time. So at the British Wills and Probate Awards 2024, Estate Planning Firm of the Year for a largest, basically, estate planning firm of the year. I've heard of them. Simpler Law, winner. Winner, chicken dinner. Again,
I did have one glass of champagne too many that night.
Did you really?
No, that was...
Only one.
That was lovely, but we're not naive to the fact that that's down to everyone at Simple Law. You know,
of course, and it's a large team, and but you hire very carefully. I mean, Charlotte...
She slipped through the net.
She slipped through the net, that's right. Sometimes you make a mistake, but you just have to live with it.
Can't get rid of it then.
You can't, no. But no, seriously, I mean, you can tell, you know, if you're a good judge of character, as I believe I am, you know, that both Ian and Charlotte are superb people, and we've known them for years, and they are genuinely superb people. They're honest, they're decent, they have integrity, they care, they're passionate about what they do, and everyone else in the firm is like that. So you're going to get such a personal service. If you have any fears, or if you had any fears, if you have, I don't know, whatever mood you're in when you do your consultation, they will help you. It's a totally personal service. And it's such an affordable thing to do. For 99 quid, you probably spend more than that on your weekly shop. I think probably everybody, even a single person, would spend more than 99 quid in a week probably on a shop these days. And you can, excuse me, you can spread the cost as well if you want to. Interest-free, $24.75 a month for the will. All you've got to do is, well, you've got 3 options. Either call 0333 600 2600. That's 0333 600 2600. And there are people there right now, live operators, actual persons, warm bodies who will take your call, and they will set you up with everything that you need to secure your offer. And again, you're not doing your consultation tonight. You don't need anything at all by any way of information, except I suppose your credit card information. That's about it. Or if you want to wait until later today, and you can't be faffed to do any of that now, just text the word will. So open your regular text editor on your phone, your SMS, your simple message service, not WhatsApp or anything like that, and just put in will and send that to the number 66777, and that will then register your interest, and you will get a call back later on today. And again, any questions you have, will be answered. They will go at your pace. They will make sure you are satisfied 100% of the way. When it comes to Ian and Charlotte and their teams, they will not meet your expectations. They will exceed them by a mile. And in fact, actually, here are some reviews from actual clients. These are genuine clients. Sandra says, I never recommend any services, but I definitely recommend Simply Law. Very knowledgeable staff, explained every step in detail, and provided further advice and information. And then David said, I spoke with Bjorn today and getting a will document drawn up. Very polite and friendly person. He also has a very professional so he was also very professional and efficient. He guided me through the process in a concise and clear manner. Very happy with the great customer service I received today. Thanks. And this will be typical of you. Look, it's got to be done, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't get anything out of this. I get paid to be here, and I'm very expensive, reassuringly expensive.
I thought you were doing this out of love.
Oh, I do do it out of love, but my love is always influenced directly by the number of pounds that go into my bank account. No, I'm just kidding. No, I do. The thing is, and this is what I try to explain to people at home, because people at home are very sceptical, as we are, as we would be if we were watching from home now, and people sometimes forget that I'm actually a human being, and I do care, and I like to think I'm quite a decent human being, and I genuinely care about the people who watch, and nothing gives me more joy when I meet someone on the street who's bought something or whatever it is and is ecstatic with what they've purchased. That's why I was told once I was too honest to work in this business, but it was another company. I was too honest to work in that business for sure, because it's very important to me and to for my own credibility, and I know that you would understand that as well. So can I do the typical Rob Lock thing and be just really blunt with you? You need to do it. It's just, and even actually, I was going to say, unless it's just you and no one else, but there's even a situation where if it's you and no one else. Tell us about that, because maybe that's what you're thinking. Even you need a will. Who's going to tell that story?
Go on, you can go.
Well, I'm going to generalise.
Yeah.
If you've got something and you want to make sure that the people around you, what you've got is going to go to them,
Yeah.
then the only way to do that is through a will.
Right.
It's not through hope, it's not through assumption.
No.
And it genuinely doesn't matter whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you're an unmarried partners. And please don't think that because you've been together for 20 years that you're a common law husband and wife and everything will be okay.
No.
That legal status
Definitely need a will.
That doesn't exist. And of course, sticking with the Rob Lock sceptical viewer view, of course Ian's going to say that because at Simple Law he wants everyone to buy a will.
Yeah.
I want everyone to be educated, and I don't mean that to sound patronising. I want everyone to be aware. I think a lot of people don't make a will because they think everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
What I want you to realise and I want you to believe and understand is that if you don't make your own will, you will get a government will, regardless of your status.
Yeah.
And that doesn't care about you. It's a default position. It's basic. It's an unconscious decision that everyone in the UK over 18 has made if they haven't made their own will.
Yeah.
So whether you're single or whether you're married or whatever your position is kind of irrelevant to whether you need a will or not. You should have a will.
So what if, let's say, for example, you're single?
Yeah.
You have no family members whatsoever. You don't care what happens to your belongings after you die, and you don't care where you're buried. I mean, would you still need a will then?
It's your choice. It could be a friend. It could even be charity.
Right.
It's just your choice. Because without it could end up somewhere where you don't want it to go.
Yeah.
Do you know what,
You could have
do you know what genuinely amuses me is when we hear it quite often is people saying, well, I am doing a will because I think it's the right thing to do, but I haven't got very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, you know, I've got a little bit of money in an ISA, and then it's like, oh, and so are you in rented? Like, oh no, I own my house, but of course, because they're not selling the house, they don't see the house is their home. They don't see it as value. And then it's like, I've got a car, and all of a sudden you're like, well, you've got £200,000. Oh, right. And it's like, let's make sure that goes to where you want it to go.
Yeah.
And
you could leave it all to your cat if you. And that has happened. When I lived in America, somebody gave their millions to their cat.
Well,
but you have to have a will to do that.
Thankfully, in the UK, felines can't actually inherit.
Really? Oh well, yeah. Only in America.
In theory, there's a way to do that. But what you would end up doing is lots of people leave money to charities. Obviously, there's millions and millions of pounds left through legacies. Again, when you make your own will, not only do you choose who administers it, you choose what age your children inherit. You basically can choose if someone doesn't inherit, but specific gifts are quite a big thing as well. So you can leave. It's very popular for moms to leave jewellery to the daughters, but they might specify they want a wedding ring to go to one daughter and an engagement ring to go to another, and of course that stops a family fallout.
Sure.
One of the biggest reasons for a breakdown in relationships in the UK is following a bereavement. And the open bracket to that bereavement is where a will hasn't been written. Because people are falling out going, that's not what mom would have wanted. And they fall out over the daftest things, but of course emotions are high because they're dealing with the bereavement.
You know, I think it's a question, what I would ask myself, maybe you'll do the same, is that if I were alive after I was dead, now, depending, you know, different beliefs aside, if you could see what was happening, it was what I mean, after you'd passed away, and the effects of your decision when you had a will and versus the effects of your decision if you didn't have a will, I think you'd be mortified if you... No, I didn't want that. Why are they getting that? No, I mean, or by things you cherish could go to the wrong places, you know, or, you know, you could have a vintage car that gets sold for parts. No, you know, belongs in a museum or something. You know, at the end of the day, it's just a potluck if you don't have a will, isn't it?
This is why no one regrets doing this. This isn't an impulsive purchase. It isn't, oh, why did I buy that red coat, or why did I dye my hair pink? This isn't something you're going to regret, though. In all seriousness, you know, genuinely being serious for a minute, this will be one of the best things that you can do for yourself, and you'll get something out of it. You'll find it incredibly cathartic. But what you've done for your loved ones is so selfless, because what you've done is you've guaranteed that you've taken control, and what you want to happen will now happen. Without that, it can be catastrophic, because it's not unusual for families today to not be what the rules of intestacy want them to be. And what I mean by that is, you could be on your second marriage, your third marriage.
I was going to say, let's go just one sec. We're going to go through this fully, but I just want to say the first good deed you're doing by, you know, basically for your loved ones and such, is by actually signing up for the will, because what you've already given them just by the act of doing that is you've given them peace of mind and no aggro once you've passed away. You know what I mean? And so you are, as you say, doing a very positive thing. But if you don't, this is the basic government will. Can we go through the... Well, we will find a better way of showing this, but let's go through the whole thing, because this... And answer along at home, kids, because maybe this will already show a massive hole in your situation and things where your estate might end up popping off to somebody who you don't want to have it or shouldn't have it. So who would you like to, one of you like to talk us through the whole chart, please?
I'm sure we can both cover it.
Or you can take it in turns.
I'm definitely annoyed of my own voice, I'll be honest tonight. But I think just before we go into the specifics of it, the overview is very simple. What you'll notice from that is it, by definition, has to be generic. There is nothing personal in there at all. No. It doesn't take any consideration of your personal situation. No. And the first thing that's missing before you even get into the questions is who's actually going to deal with it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because it doesn't appoint anyone. So it could, again, this is where one of the first delays can happen. And then costs can rack up, because people don't realise that after you've passed away, bills still need paying, and bills actually still rack up.
Someone's responsible for those.
But yeah, I mean, the starting place, and then I will let Charlotte speak, because she's much more articulate and intelligent than me. But the starting place is
he runs hot and cold, this one, doesn't he?
I know,
it's a love-hate relationship.
If you have passed away, without a will, the first question that's going to be asked of you was, were you married? Were you married?
Okay, Paul, hang on one sec, because apparently we get charged by the minute for this graphic, so we want to get through it. No, I'm just kidding. We just need to get through it as quickly as we can.
But yeah, it's are you married in a civil partnership? So it doesn't ask if you love each other. It doesn't ask if you cohabit. It doesn't ask if you've been together for 20 years. The legal distinction is really clear. Are you married in a civil partnership? And that then sets off a series of yes or no questions. And it's all about your bloodline. Right, so you imagine for 1 second that Mr. and Mrs. Smith are on their second marriage, and they've both got a daughter from a previous relationship. If Mr. Smith dies first, the rules of intestacy will say that Mrs. Smith gets everything. Yeah. Then when Mrs. Smith dies, the rules of intestacy will say only her daughter gets everything. So Mr. Smith's daughter gets nothing. And
really?
Yes, and if you speak to those clients, they'll actually tell you that they want to treat their girls equally.
Yeah.
The rules of intestacy doesn't. And this is the kind of thing, that's an extraordinary situation. This is the kind of thing that sadly happens every day.
Well, it happens a lot, doesn't it? Yeah.
And
if it's the same marriage and the children are from that marriage, then obviously when both parents die, it goes to the kids. But yeah, you do get a lot of blended families.
And it's not guaranteed to do that neither.
Is it not? Why?
No, there are limits that can pass between spouses. And there are other eventualities that could actually attack the estate before it even gets there, and we can help protect all of that. But we can only give you that advice if you text us tonight or you phone us tonight. So please do that.
I was going to say, and if you know, worst case scenario, it just all goes to the Crown. speaking of which, it's a bit.
I don't think they've got enough. So the more.
No, they do need a few more. You know, I was going to say this is like navigating Hampton Court by yourself. I wouldn't know where to start. That's why I stuck my fingers in my ears and went la la la. That's why I put it off for years and years and years. And look, you know, I'm a middle-aged, overweight man. Now I'm relatively healthy, but I don't know. So who knows what the future holds? But even if you're a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old healthy person, none of us have any real insight or any insight at all into what is going to happen tomorrow. You know, today is all we've got. You know, who knows whether there will be another tomorrow? And I know that's a morbid thing to say, but it is true. And you know, we can either kind of go, "Oh, that hurts my feelings," or we can actually face reality, which is that you want to take charge of what happens once you pass away, because you don't have any control after that. And what an affordable way to do it with Simpler Law. Simpler Law have been around for how many years now? 20-something?
I've been doing this for 25 years. Yeah,
25 years.
We're about to enter our 10th year now. Yeah.
Oh,
A
amazing!
Simpler Law, yeah.
Oh, a Simpler Law, 10
Yeah,
years, but you've been incredible. Charlotte's been doing it for 84 years. Dog years. No, actually, does that work out better or worse? I don't know.
I don't know.
What's worse, but honestly, it's a brilliant makeup job she's got. She's been doing
It
for
really
84
is.
years.
It really is.
Yeah.
There's a picture in her closet somewhere. You should see the state of it. Yeah. So £99 is for your basic will, your family and estate will. If you do nothing else, I wish I could. Look, I can't force you to do anything, but by God, you got to have one of these. It's just simple. It's as simple as that. Everyone needs one. It should almost be compulsory, I think, that everybody have a will. So the question is, do you want the government will, or do you want the will that you've paid, you know? Actually, for a template, you might pay even more than £99 and then have no expert guidance whatsoever. So do you want to risk all of that and getting it wrong? And we'll talk about actually an example of signature. There's a signature story that you'll tell later, right? Do it with the experts. Do it with the people who've been doing it for I mean, you know, professionally for many, many years, who are award-winning with 5-star reviews and customer service, and lock in this deal. The deal is only good. I hate using the word deal, but it is a deal. The deal is only up until close of business. What's that, 6 o'clock, close of business? Or the end of the day, do you mean?
Yeah, 5 o'clock on Wednesday.
Oh, 5 o'clock
Yeah.
on this Wednesday coming. All of those prices will go back to the regular prices. So the family and estate will is 99. Again, what do you spend? I mean, 99 quid's nothing these days. If you want to spread the cost, 4 interest-free instalments of £24.75, making it into little bite-sized chunks, and you're going to save £110. You're going to save, excuse me, more than you're spending in almost all cases. Then the lasting power of attorney, and you can choose. Now, presumably, if you wanted both, then you would double up on the price. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. So for one, whether you would go for health or whether you go for wealth, it's £199 each, or 4 payments of £49.75, saving you £150. And then the will and lasting power of attorney, £558 normally, but you've got it for £269 just until Wednesday at 5 p.m, or 4 instalments of £67.25, saving you £289. And remember, the first 250 clients will receive this amazing book, which we haven't even really talked about. We'll show you in a moment. It's a fabulous book. And if you want to get in touch, I should say when you want to get in touch, because I really do hope you're doing the right thing. And I'm sorry if I'm sounding pushy. Again, I don't get commission. I don't make any extra money out of this. I do it genuinely because I know how important this is. And you do too, let's be honest. Deep down inside, you do. You know we're talking sense here, that Ian and Charlotte are talking sense, you know. And so it's just a question of whether you want to make a good decision today or no decision at all. And no decision is a bad decision. simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. We'll show you that landing page in a moment. Or you can call 0333 600 2600 and call the call centre. People in the call centre, operators are standing by right now for another hour and a half. And thank you, Leslie, because I had no idea what time it is, and now I do. Or you can text using your regular SMS phone texting service. Type in the word will and send that off to the number 66777, and you will get a call back later today after 11 a.m. so that you can sign up and secure your deal. And also, you'll talk to a real person and you will be able to ask questions, and eventually you will schedule your consultation, and the whole process will be absolutely delightful. It really is. And if you, by the way, if you have accidentally stumbled across Shop on TV's website, there are 700,000 products there that you can choose from. But if you scroll down to on-screen partners, you can see Simpler Law. This is the landing page. And here is how all you need to do: full name, phone, email, select your offer, what the will is for, are you a homeowner, do you have any children, and hit submit, and it will take you through the process to secure your deal, and then you will be good to go with your consultation, which will happen. How long after you've signed up do you usually schedule the consultation?
Again, it's up to the client.
Whenever they want. So it could be a month from now. It could, is there a time limit?
Within reason, we are busy, but yeah,
yeah.
No, there's no time limit.
Oh,
but obviously, if you make the decision, it's good to get your consultation done. I like what you said about, and it's not a morbid thing to say that there's no tomorrow, but let's be honest, you can't do anything yesterday and you can't do anything tomorrow. It's like now. And if you're watching this show, then you've got an opportunity to do something. Because my experience is, if you go to bed, you're going to wake up tomorrow and life's going to get in the way and you won't do it. It'll be like, I'll get to it later.
It's procrastination, isn't it? I was.
There are sexier things to spend your money on. There's probably more exciting things that you think you spend your money on. But
I know.
But when you go through the consultation, and this is the kind of frustration we have, is people think it's not going to be, useful, or it is going to be difficult, or it's going to be morbid, and you're not. You're just planning. You're just planning. And honestly, when you speak to Charlotte or a member of her team, it'll be quite different, I think, to what you expect it to be, and you honestly will not regret doing it.
Because you're not talking about the potential details of your demise. You're talking about positive things, about who's going to get what, because you love them and why, and
we're talking about them.
You
do it now, and you give yourself a pat on the back, and then you just get on with your life, knowing that you've done something amazing, and it's half an hour out of your day. We probably doom scroll for longer than that.
Well,
and we definitely spend more money than.
Is that what they call it? Doom scrolling.
Well, that's what I call it.
Great expression. I love that. Yeah.
I call it that. I sometimes I'm not going to the gym tonight because I've got no time, and then I'll doom scroll for half an hour.
I know. Do you know what? Seriously, ladies and gentlemen, it's never a good thing to procrastinate. I was going to procrastinate once, and I just thought, well, I'll do it tomorrow. But I recommend you act now. Sorry. And you will, if you're one of the first 250 people, you will get one of these. Well, I appreciated it. Everybody else was groaning. You see, we can have fun talking about this stuff. So what your family should know, importance of a last will and testament. But actually, once you start getting into the details of it, so this basically is where you can list all of your bank accounts, savings accounts, and again there's a section for assets and notes and my wishes. So you can, as you go through it, property. Essentially, this becomes a lexicon of your life. Pensions, and it can go with your life. So it also means, with your will. It means that basically your executor or a member, whoever it is that you have, if you have an LPA, whoever you've appointed the person to take care of your affairs, they know, or they have access to everything. It could be, like, for example, my lad, David, when I pass away, and he's missing me terribly, I've got hundreds of hours of videos of me in television and films and things like that, which I occasionally force him to watch. But he wouldn't know how to get to those. I have two-factor authentication on all my accounts. I have very complicated passwords, and he would know those things exist, but he wouldn't know how to get to them. And they, for him, may be treasured memories, I'd like to think. Apparently not. No, but it's music, is stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
As well.
Well, growing up, when I did, it was a photo album.
Oh, yeah.
Stick you back in the photo album, and it started to yellow if you left it out and stuff like that. And of course now, lots of things that, it's the digital vault or it's the cloud.
The cloud, yeah.
But you're right, you need a PIN or you need a password, and sometimes, sadly, people will pass away, and the password will pass with them. Mm-hmm. What this book does is it allows you to sit down and take stock of everything that you've got.
Amazing.
And it also means then that also your executors and your family will probably not miss anything. One of the reasons,
One
of the reasons this book was put together was off the back of what our estate administration department has to go through. Because when someone passes away, you have to gather in everyone's assets.
Yes,
and it's like, how do you find all those assets? And what we learned in doing that is there's £5 billion in the UK of unclaimed pension pots. So
Good Lord,
that's where frozen pensions haven't been found.
I'll have it.
Exactly, but you've got to find it. But of course, if you think about your parents, you might know what they did and where they worked, but did they have a job 5 years somewhere else where they're paying into a pension? So sometimes...
Well, sometimes multiple pensions. I worked for a company for a few months, so I've got a little bit of... I had a pension from that company, but I only worked for them for 9 months.
Yeah.
So I've got, a few £1,000 that are, But I from speaking to other people, people who might have worked for 4 or 5 different companies and have 4 or 5 different pensions,
Yeah, and if they're not found, hence these big figures, it's believed there's £2 billion of unclaimed life insurance. So that should have been there to pay to family. Yeah, and about £850 million sat in UK banks that, again, should be with your
people.
beneficiaries, and it's just not being found. So again, it's another selfless thing. But yeah, if you're one of the first 250 people to secure a deal this morning, we give you that for free as well.
Shall we, as we're sort of halfway through the show... let's go back to the beginning. What are the benefits of having a will?
Again, it's thank you. Again, it's you making your choice.
Yeah.
Whatever you've got, you've worked hard for,
yes.
or you care about someone and you want it to go to those people. It's not even necessarily where you want things to go. I think a lot of people just assume a will is where you want all your assets to go, but it could be who you don't want it to go to. It could be the age you want your beneficiaries to inherit. So if you've got children under the age of 18, we've all been 18. Do you want to give an 18-year-old...
in my head, yeah.
We all are. A lot of clients that I speak to, or that the team speak to, probably actually want to increase that. 21, 23, can go even older. But again, it's you making that choice. It could be leaving gifts. And you might be sitting there thinking, I don't know what I have, or I don't know what I want to leave, or I don't know who I want to leave it to. But that's going through the consultation. We will ask those questions, and you will have the answers. But it's just about you.
And there's nothing. I mean, for simple cases, obviously, you make it simple. Hence, it's your name, of course. But it doesn't matter how complicated it gets. So if you're talking about the most complex, you've got multiple marriage and blended families and tons of kids and grandkids from lots of different, sort of parents and what have you, you can deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big things is one of the reasons my wife and I, for example, decided not to get divorced until after we decided not to get divorced until after David was 18, I think it was, because then it's just much easier. Because if you have to go through all the courts, particularly in America, all the court system, things like that, with when you've got children involved, it's a nightmare. Whereas once he's legal age, they don't care. So it was just a straight split, kind of thing. So. But the point, I'm sure I had a point here somewhere. So when it comes to kids, I would imagine if both parents die at the same time, and it can happen, what the heck happens to the kids if you haven't got a will?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you haven't got a will in place, you're essentially relying on the right person to step forward.
But what if you don't have? I mean, let's say you've got, a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old. I mean, what do they just go into foster care? Does this,
In really extreme circumstances, children can become a ward of court, because if you've not documented your wishes through a will, if you've not passed your guardianship on, so basically you can bequeath your parental responsibility for all intents and purposes. So if you nominate someone to be a guardian, then again, you've made your wishes clear and it's documented, and providing that person accepts the role of guardian, job done. If you don't have a will and therefore don't have a guardianship clause, the first question is, who's going to step forward? If it's more than one person, how do you decide who's the best? And when I say, how do you decide, it's actually going to be the court.
Yeah.
Well, so
someone who's never met you...
Do the authorities make people step forward? Because what if someone doesn't step forward?
No, they can't make them step forward, no. But typically what would happen... I mean, we have had situations where both sets of grandparents have come forward. So again, emotions are high. There's been a tragedy, parents have passed away, and now both sets of grandparents are essentially arguing who's better placed to take the children.
Have just lost their parents.
But the parents' wishes aren't taken into account because they didn't make a will. So,
and it might not have been either of those that they
no. My
wife and I,
they might have dreaded the thought of the grandparents.
My wife and I have got 2 young boys, and one of the first things we did in our will, of course, is name guardians. And that, whilst I don't want to think for 1 second that I'm not going to be around to see my boys grow into young men, I've done the best that I can for them, in the sense that we've made sure that if the worst happens to us, they are going to go to people who are basically, we know they love them. We know that the boys love the guardians. We know the guardians love the boys.
And can you even go, different sort of steps down? Like if they died, that you could name additional. I mean, you could literally, do backups if you needed to.
Backup guardians. That's a good way of putting it. But yes.
That's what we're substitute guardians. And again, that's where the advice comes into it. Going to someone professional. We will guide you through that and have those conversations with you.
It's not enough to have a pint with your best mate and say, if the worst happens to me, will you look after the kids? It's not. Godparents are just a really.
I thought I was being awfully clever by doing this little spreadsheet for my lad, so that he knew how to log into my bank account and transfer the money over to his and this and that and round, But of course that just wouldn't fly, would it, legally?
No, you've got to have legal authority.
Yeah.
Making a will is the only way to control what happens when you're no longer here. That's the bottom line, and that's why we do these shows. Is I know because that many people that I meet, when they say, "What do you do for a living?" and I say, "I'm very excited," and I say, "I'm a will writer," and they shuffle off, and I say, "Don't go away, I need more friends." But they'll often say something like, "Oh, I know I need a will." There's always that kind of response. "Oh, I need to make a will." They can't quite put the finger on why they've not done it, but it's partly because they probably don't think they need to, or there's some kind of assumption that, well, I'm sure everything will be okay.
Or hope that it will be.
The hope is absolutely true. But sadly, it's only when it's too late that then the family realise that, oh, Dad didn't make a will, or Mum didn't make a will, or my brother didn't make a will, and then you can leave a mess. And you didn't do it intentionally. Because I don't think anyone goes, I'm intentionally going to die and leave a mess. They die thinking that everything's going to be okay. Well, don't think and don't hope and don't assume. Do something absolutely amazing. Put aside as little as just over 80p a day for 4 months, and you can have a will. I mean, I spend more than that on coffee a week.
God, I mean, well, when you put it in perspective, a coffee's what, £4 or £5 now, isn't it? Something like that.
I'm getting ripped off. I'm going to the wrong place. Like I said, we will spend money on things that we perceive we want, and sometimes we forget to spend a little bit of money on something that we definitely need. And honestly, you need a will. You want to look after yourself and your loved ones.
It's almost more important than, because let's say you don't have home insurance, and your house burns down. All right, you lose everything, but at least you're still alive, But whereas if you don't have a will, once you pass, I know you would have passed away, but what happens next is so completely and utterly beyond your control. Harry Houdini always said if there was a way to come back, he would find it, and so far we don't believe he has. So it's allowing your voice to carry on, your legacy. This is your legacy.
It's your last act on
It's your last act on planet Earth. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's your last gift to your family. Sorry, Rob.
No, for sure.
It is essentially the last thing you do. It's a gift to your family because you've done something selfless and you've said, look, I've taken control. I'm going to make sure you're okay. This is now what's going to happen. And in a lot of situations, if they hadn't done that, it sounds melodramatic, but honestly, a really bad situation is turned catastrophic. And can rip families apart.
It's happened in my wife's family. Her aunt passed away, and the husband, who was the executor of the estate, has refused to file or doesn't know how to file the will. Now, it's different laws and rules in America, but the whole family, there are houses and there's a lot of money and there's all kinds of stuff tied up in this will that's just stuck, because at least they had a will, but I mean, this is obviously a specific situation that doesn't apply here. But at least have the will, and then that way thy will be done. Now, we have a question, and this is from Cecilia. Actually, from Cecilia. It's a message first, who said, done registering my interest. Fantastic, Cecilia. What a lovely lady and gent. They are, aren't they? I was so excited to work with Ian and Charlotte tonight. I really was. They are. I've only ever seen them on telly. We've spoken offline and things like that. But it was the first show. I think it's the first time we've ever done a show together.
It is, yeah.
You would have remembered if.
I'll be honest, Rob. I'm sat here in awe.
Oh, please. What a lovely, so calm and so informative, so helpful. And they explain the procedure well. Good, I'm glad it's coming across that way for you, Cecilia. I'm glad my recently bereaved dad had a will and LPA. My brother and sister have been the executor and done a brilliant job sorting dad's things out. Thank you, Cecilia. It's so important, it really is. And the question, so there was a question, I believe, as well. So Lisa, she says, if circumstances change, can you change your will?
Yeah, so again, this is advice that we give you throughout it. So we do offer a facility where we can change your will in the future, as it would.
Yes.
Or you can rewrite a new will. Again, that's your choice as to whether you take up on that. But either way, life is going to change. There may be amendments in your will. And you can
you buy two? Can you sign up for 2 lots of will and then you keep the other one for if you want to make any changes?
It's a really good point, because sometimes people will put a future event as an objection to doing the will now. So it's like, well, I might be moving house in a year, or I might be changing job. They'll put some change in their life as a reason why I'll do the will then.
Yeah,
that's a mistake, because you need to make a will today.
Yes.
Because today's all you've got. So you make a will now, and then if circumstances do change, whilst the will itself is legally binding, if you want to change it, as Charlotte's just said, we offer facilities where you can change it for free.
Right, okay.
But even if you don't want to take advantage of that facility, all you do, whether it's a year down the line or 10 years down the line, if your circumstances have changed, you can rewrite your will to suit then. But that means you were protected in this period, because what you don't want to do is not have a will because something's going to happen well down the line, and then life throws you that curveball in between. So again, it's back to regret for me. You don't regret doing this, but you have to do it now.
It's, people are intrinsically afraid of taking action. I know, and that's just, that is just because of reasons you're saying. We will generally, now, there are some people who are very good at it, but most people will find a reason to not do something, even if it's to their detriment. And I know that's
especially if it's not perceived as fun.
Yeah, I know.
You've not spoken to Charlotte yet.
Exactly.
No, I mean, you get to spend, an hour or so talking to Charlotte. That's what your £99 is buying. You get a will as well.
I think we should be clear to the viewers that you can't all wait for Charlotte.
No,
very competent team of consultants.
They're all equally wonderful.
Yes,
that's right.
And again, the Trustpilot review shows they're naming all of the consultants that they're speaking to. And it is, most of the clients that we speak to will get to the end and go, oh gosh, that's a weight lift. That was actually a bit of fun. And because we're having that conversation. So don't be afraid of it.
I think you have to have a sense of humour about it as well, isn't it? Actually, I know a lot of funeral directors, for reasons I won't go into now, but they are some of the most rowdy, and their sense of humour, because they're around something that is not necessarily the most pleasant thing all day long.
I mean, they're dealing with the actual thing, so that's obviously a coping mechanism.
Yeah, sure.
I think the way we view this, obviously, we put the client at the heart of everything that we do.
Yeah.
But this is nothing more than a plan, but you know that the plan's going to be executed at some point in the future.
Yeah.
But we plan for all kinds of things that we know are coming up, whether it be a holiday, even even me coming down here on the train today, I had to plan what time I'm getting a taxi, what time I'm getting the train.
Yeah, sure.
The mini plans, but we forget to plan for the
Where did you come down from?
Big thing. I came down from the northeast today. I live in the northeast.
I bet you paid. Oh, so LNER, right?
Darlington to
Darlington, right?
Yeah.
So I bet you paid more than £99 for that ticket as well.
Actually, I did.
Yeah.
It's a very good point, Rob.
Yeah, I know, because I know that line very well. See, one train ticket, one train journey, and all that's done is got you from A to B. No future benefit whatsoever.
From talking to our clients over all these years, and as I said, we're very fortunate. We've got over 250,000 clients. We know that some of the reasons that people have said, I put it off, are A, they thought it was going to be really expensive. Well, through Shop on TV, hopefully we've allayed that fear.
Sure.
Some people think it's going to be really complicated, or that they're going to be confused or upset by the questions. I promise you that's not the case. And if it is, just tell us you don't want to go any further and we'll give you your money back. And some people are actually afraid that it's going to be quite morbid or sad or depressing somehow, and it's actually quite the opposite of that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So all these reasons...
Because when you have to think about all the people you care about, and also the satisfaction of excluding people you don't like. Yeah, that's probably quite good too. Yeah.
That's a surprising thing when you deal with the volume of people that we do. Is unfortunately not all the families are like the Waltons.
No.
And it can be quite difficult for some clients to talk about, but also it can be quite passionate, because if there has been a breakdown in a relationship, We have had people who say that person is, I definitely want to make sure that person not getting anything. And if they hadn't made a will, they were going to get it all, or they were going to get at least half of it. So it's really important to
and also, as you were talking about earlier, there might be people in the family that have been not included or not part of the family for many years and have been almost completely, or if not totally, forgotten about, that suddenly become legally the inheritors of your parts of your estate or all of your estate. You know, that's the last thing that you want. These, again, there's a checklist. The ladies and gentlemen know what they're doing, so they cover you 100%. So there is no eventuality where you're going to walk away with a signed will that hasn't covered every possible avenue where there could be a negative effect, and every possible avenue where there can be a positive effect. It's all about benefit rather than the opposite, isn't it? You know the questions to ask, you know how to make the information valid, and
clients have got the answers.
Yeah, and we can only ask those answers if you text the word will to 66777.
Yeah,
so honestly, if you sat there watching this now and you think, I've been thinking about making a will, do something amazing now. If you send that text, we will give you a call tomorrow. Charlotte's colleagues are in the office right now. 403 600 2600, and we'll take your call now. And honestly, you'll go to bed having done something amazing. If you go to bed now going, I'll do it tomorrow, life will get in the way, and it won't happen. Yeah.
And also, as I say, all you've got to do is make that inquiry, because if you get on the phone and you don't like what you're hearing, it's fine. If you've already paid any money, you can get it back. Simple, guaranteed. If you've just got questions, general questions, then you can also use this email address down here, enquiries@simplerlaw.co.uk, enquiries@simplerlaw.co.uk. They'll get back to you. They won't get back to you right now, obviously, but they will during business hours. Or you can call 0333 600 2600. That's 0333 600 2600. And again, you don't need to give any information, any sort of major information over tonight. You just need to secure your deal. But also, there are live operators there, and they will answer any questions that people have, right, tonight.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe you're not sure yet. Maybe there's something we haven't covered. You can ask them, and then make sure peace of mind is what this is all about. Satisfaction is what this is all about. That's what you're buying. You're buying peace of mind and satisfaction, not just for you right now, but also for the future of your family and your friends and for other generations that are yet to come. You could also, and this is the most popular way to do it, text WILL, the word WILL. Doesn't have to be in caps or lowercase, or it doesn't matter what, just as long as the word's there. And send that to 66777. Now you can't use Snapchat or Instagram or WhatsApp. That is your built-in phone's SMS, simple message service, the texting service. And 66777 is the number you send the word WILL to, and you'll get a call back later today. Right, we had another question. Say again, Leslie. So Terry would like to know the difference between power of attorney, lasting power of attorney, and enduring power of attorney. Well, I can tell you the enduring power of attorney, that doesn't exist anymore. It's an old thing, isn't it?
Yeah, enduring powers of attorney were replaced in 2007. There's something called the Mental Capacity Act 2005, and that's when lasting powers of attorney came in. So essentially, in Scotland, there's a combined document that can deal with both finances and health and welfare.
Yep.
In England and Wales, there's a document that specifically allows you to choose attorneys to deal with your finances and deal with property. And there's a document that allows you to choose attorneys to deal specifically with your health and well-being and how you're cared for. So enduring powers of attorney do still exist. We still actually store them for our clients and are still registering them today when sadly our clients have become incapacitated. And, I've no doubt that people that are storing their lasting powers of attorney with us now, if they're unlucky enough and life throws them a curveball, that we'll be registering those in the future as well. The important thing is to have the document, have it signed, dated and witnessed. Sometimes the worst phone calls we get are from people that didn't do a lasting power of attorney and they've lost capacity, or worse than that, they had a lasting power of attorney but they didn't get it signed, they didn't get it dated, they didn't get it witnessed, and because they've now lost capacity, the opportunity to do that has now gone.
Yeah. What's the difference? Leslie had a question. What's the difference between about about capacity and excuse me. Excuse me.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Just talk amongst yourselves. Yeah. What are the what now? What are the misconceptions around incapacity and decision making. That's for you, Charlotte.
That's for me. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, again,
regarding a lasting power of attorney.
It's similar to, well, I say similar to wills, but people assume that if you've lost your capacity, that you just automatically, if you're married, for example, or you're a child, that you'll automatically be able to make the decisions for that person. Why wouldn't you? Because everyone knows that that's what that person would want.
Sure.
But as we've said,
so even marriage doesn't give you that.
No, we said earlier on the show, if you went into your wife's bank and asked to take out some money, or contacted their, I don't know, home insurance, for example, first thing you get is data protection. Are you the policy holder? Are you the account holder? If you're not that person, you can't go any further, and that's why they've got capacity. If they've lost capacity, they're even more vulnerable.
Yeah.
So again, it's the assumption that people think, I'm going to be able to do that because they're my loved one, I know what they want.
It's difficult to understand where these assumptions come from, but again, I think it gets boiled down to I think it gets boiled down to hope.
Yeah.
And sometimes people say, well, it's okay because I've got a joint account, but actually, joint accounts can only operate if both people have got capacity. The British Banking Association actually frees a joint bank account if one of you's lost capacity.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
You've both got to have joint access and basically give each other the authority to access that. The only way to guarantee that the people or the person that you want to make decisions for you can do that is through a lasting power of attorney. And if you hope that someone can just step into your shoes, unfortunately, they only find out that that's not the case when it's then too late to do anything about it.
We just stepped on a bit of a landmine there because Leslie and I are both, Leslie, our producer, we're kind of going, oh my God, you get a joint bank account because you think if something happens to one of you, then the other one can take over, but you can't. And not most, but I would imagine an awful lot of married couples will have joint bank accounts. Oh, God. Well, so actually, Leslie just said that she's got friends with a joint bank account, a married couple, and the husband is on the verge of passing away. So they need to sort that out with no will. I'd get that sorted if I were you. Is it ever too? Obviously, once you've died, it's too late. But
well, that's
up
where the
until
will
that,
come into place at that point.
Yes, as long as you have capacity, you can. What if you haven't got a will and you haven't got capacity? Can someone get? No.
No. You can only do it today.
Yeah.
Both documents can only be done today whilst you've got
capacity. Once you've done it, you can put it to the side and you don't have to think about it again, obviously, unless you do want to change it, but you can go about your days and know that
it's an awful thing to say, but we have a phrase for it in the office because it happens all too often, and we call it the too late phone call. This has just happened, can you help me? Now, there's always something we can do because of what we do.
Sure.
But it's always the alternative route rather than the best route. The best thing you can do for yourself and the best thing you can do for your family is take control. Yeah. If you're worried about the inevitable, put your will in place. If you're worried about losing capacity and making sure it's the right people, do the lasting power of attorney. No one regrets doing that. No one ever regrets doing that.
And you've just pointed out one thing, one silly little thing that just came up in conversation that I bet none of us watching, and certainly us here in the studio, we would have had no idea about. And could have been seriously scuppered, with, again, the joint bank account thing. That's one fact, that's one thing. I bet there are dozens, if not hundreds of things. But there's little pitfalls that people just don't know about, and then they find out the hard way.
There are all kinds of situations out there that you don't think about. You've been kind enough to share the fact that you were getting divorced but aren't quite divorced.
I only realised that the other day,
We spoke to a client recently where she herself has been separated for well over 10 years. But she still owns the property as a joint tenant with her husband.
Right.
And she's got a new partner now, and she's saying, well, I want everything to go to my new partner. And we're like, well, the house will actually automatically pass to your husband, won't even fall into your estate because of the way that you own it. Yeah. But we were able to help. We were able to help that client sort.
Joint mortgages, is there the similar rules with the joint bank accounts with joint mortgages as well?
Yeah, anything jointly and severally.
Yeah, any financial. Two names in,
Wow.
The bottom line...
Because you've both got to have consent, your name's on that legal document.
The bottom line is, even though this show's for 3 hours, you would never cover every scenario for 3 hours.
I'm beginning to realise. Sorry, excuse my coughing. I do apologise. Right. I've got something come, But my Solpadine's worn off.
The situation is really straightforward, is we can help you with your unique situation. Yeah. And we understand that your situation is unique, but we can only help you if you get in touch, and that's why we do these shows. You'll speak to Charlotte or one of her colleagues. We have all the questions, you have all the answers. Yeah. and at the end of it, you are guaranteed to get your will that's right for you and right for your family. And if you don't do that, unfortunately, you're guaranteed to get the government will, which is the same for every adult in the UK and doesn't care about you or your family or your marital status or your family dynamic. And I've said it before, and it really sounds melodramatic, but if you do not make your own will and you've got a blended family, it can literally tear that family apart.
It almost seems, so here's the government will, the rules of intestacy. Again, it's simple yes, no questions, and eventually, if it's no all the way, you end up giving your money to the king.
Well, he needs a bit more money.
He does need a bit more, yeah.
Struggling.
It seems from what we've been discussing and from every show of yours that I've watched, that it's almost, I can't really put a percentage on it, but the 99.9% kind of, it's almost certain to that degree, or somewhere close to that degree, that you are guaranteed things not going your way after you've passed away if you don't have a will. There's almost certainly going to be aggro, and more than anything else, heartbreak. People are going to hurt a lot more than they would just from your passing.
We can state something at 100% that we've never ever taken an instruction from a client that mirrors the rules of intestacy.
Never.
Never.
It doesn't.
Wow.
It's virtually impossible to do that because the rules of intestacy isn't personal. It's a default position. Charlotte made a really good point. There's just the three of us in the studio here. Yeah. All of our situations are different, only three of us, and yet we'd all get the same will.
Yeah.
We'd all get the same yes, no questions, and then the outcome would be determined by our marital status and our bloodline. It doesn't care about any of us.
No.
And it doesn't care about anyone watching this show right now. It's just a default position, and that's the legal position in the UK. So if you pass away without making your own will, whether you like it or not, you've passed away with the government will, and that's what really hurts families, because they're like, but I know that Dad wouldn't want that, but you've got no authority to go against.
Ladies and gentlemen, look, seriously, if you know what's good for you, I really, really, and I'm sure you do, I just can't recommend enough that you sign up now. Essentially, the way I look at it is there are three choices. You don't get a will or a lasting power of attorney, and you hope that it'll work out for the best, and history dictates that it won't, but maybe you don't care. Maybe you couldn't care less what happens after you die, and if that's the case, then that's you do you, babe. The other choice is that you go to a different firm of estate attorneys and get a will and lasting power of attorney from them. We think that you will find, first of all, you will struggle to find anyone with as much of a reputation and level of expertise as Simplot Law in the first place, because they're one of the preeminent companies in the kingdom for this sort of thing. Specifically justice, that's their specialty. They don't do ambulance chasing or any of that other kind of stuff. It's it's purely estate law. And so you might find going somewhere else you'd pay a lot more. Here, I mean, now they do. Basically, this is it. They're all linked to wills and LPAs. Trust planning and creation, probate and estate administration, court of protection applications, trust management and trustee support, conveyance and property transaction, bereavement service, and post-death variations and generational planning are some of the services. So you might go somewhere else and take the risk of not knowing anything about that company and probably paying more. So why, look, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, right? You've got one of the best companies in the country, nay, the world, at this sort of thing, offering you these incredible deals, and they've never had, ever in the history of the company, had a will fail, ever. Or the other alternative is you go with a template, and you have no idea whether you've done it right, because you're not an expert. Now, maybe if you are a will expert, you can write your own will. Fine, I accept that. If Ian said, I'm going to write my own will, and he probably did or has, fine. But if you go, when it comes to like the...
I was done by a head will writer. I don't trust myself to write.
Well, actually, I was going to say, you probably even wouldn't write your own one because you're too close to it. You'd have somebody else do it. So when we talk...
We have 100% compliance checks regardless of who puts it through to make sure that we've done everything right and to make sure the client's happy with everything we've done.
You were talking about, I think this is a story from one of your other shows, the signature story. Was that to do with the template, wasn't it? Where someone had everything right, they did everything right, but...
It wasn't signed, it wasn't executed. Even in this digital age, wills have to be signed, dated and witnessed, and they have to have 2 independent witnesses, and it's a wet signature, so it's a paper document. So even in this digital age, it still is a paper document, and it has to be signed, dated.
Wasn't there maybe this was the same example where they signed it as the name that they're known by, but not the name that was on their birth certificate?
It was Hayley's mum.
Hayley's mum, really?
Hayley's mum.
Yeah,
before we started on Shop on TV, Hayley, who's obviously one of the presenters, her mum engaged us to do lasting powers of attorney for her mum, so Hayley was obviously aware. And when you do a lasting power of attorney, someone that you know certifies that you're of mental capacity and that you know what you're doing. They're called a certificate provider. So she chose a friend and neighbour who they'd always known as Dottie or something like that. So of course we took all those details down, and then when they got the friend and neighbour to actually sign, she put down a name like Bernadette, and they were like, oh. So it basically the names didn't match because we'd pretty much put a nickname down that she was known as. All we did is we redid the document and fixed it. But because
you guarantee your work, don't you, basically?
Yeah, and we offer a free validation service, and we carry professional indemnity insurance for £5 million, which means our clients are protected for £5 million. If we make a mistake that means that you or your family lose money, you're insured for £5 million through us. That's how confident we are that we do it right. And touch wood. We've never had
to use it. And you've got all of the whatever licenses and things you need to practice and do everything that you need to do.
Right through from our head of legal services, there's industry standard qualifications throughout the group. There's different entities in our group. That list of services that you showed earlier means what that actually means to our clients is really simple. We don't use anybody else to provide you with a service, so we control the quality.
It's all in-house.
We control the quality of our work. We also, it means that we control the time in which we get those documents to you, because we are aware of people out there who engage someone to do the documents and they're waiting months for it. If this is something you want to get in place, then it needs to be put in place.
And you hire very, very carefully. Obviously, you do. You choose your people very, very. I mean, in all seriousness, we've done the jokes, but in the seriousness, quality people.
The client care team are superb. One of the reasons we won the award is because of our service to clients. It's as simple as that. But they also understand, and Charlotte knows all too well, that we've got to be careful not to be flippant about the fact that we do wills every single day and we've done another will, we've done another. We know for our clients that it's probably the first time, it might be the only time that they make a will, and that it's really important to them. So just because we've done hundreds of thousands of wills, we don't lose sight of the fact that this is your will today. In fact, it's what keeps the job fresh, because it's different every time.
Unique.
Forgive me, but I've got a bit of an LPA going on in my ear. That's Leslie pushing ahead. So nice. She's been asking for LPAs for 10 minutes, but I just was so interested in, we could do this for 6 hours, couldn't we? So for people who've just tuned in, what's an LPA? What are the different LPAs? Why do you need an LPA?
So a will is inevitable. I think everyone can establish that. But with the power of attorney, we call it a what-if document. It's something you hope you never need, but you put it in place in case that curveball comes and you need it. So it's a document where you nominate who you trust, family, friends, whoever that might be, to make decisions on your behalf. So you essentially donate your power to them. They are your voice. Essentially. There's 2 separate documents of powers of attorney. The first one is property and financial affairs, which you can see on the screen there. So the people that you nominate can essentially make decisions on your bank accounts, so they can access them, they can pay bills, they can claim pensions, benefits, make sure that the money is going in and out.
Buy and sell your property, pay your rent, all that kind of stuff.
Anything from a financial point of view they can manage on your behalf. The second document is called health and welfare. So this is more of an emotional side. You can have the same people or different, but again, they can decide where you're living. So if they want you to be at home with them, they can make that choice. They can discuss your medication, even down to what you're wearing, what you're eating. You could be a vegetarian. You might like a certain shade of lipstick on every day.
You might have a penchant for a particular shade of T-shirt.
Absolutely, but only your loved ones or your close friends are going to know that. And a point you're always making, which I really like, is if you're in a care home, it's even the people that are actually visiting you. Because you could be estranged from a certain family member that you don't want to see you, but again, only the people that you're closest to are going to know.
Presumably you can even make decisions where, whether it's home care or if you are going to put that person in a care home.
And which care home that is.
There's many stories out there where family members have tried to care for their loved ones and haven't had the authority to do it.
Right.
And again, because they've lost capacity.
And there are legal ramifications there, aren't there?
Oh, you can find these stories very easily. You know, there was even recently a nurse who took a mum out just for Christmas Day.
Yeah.
But didn't tell anyone that she was doing it because I think deep down perhaps she knew that she didn't have the authority to do it. And of course, it sounds melodramatic, but then these care homes are reporting their patient, if you like, as kidnapped. But the fact that but again, if you apply a little bit of logic for a few seconds, why would a daughter think she has any authority to decide what she does with her mum unless you have that legal authority? Whilst everyone knows that you've got your mum's best interests at heart.
It's ironic because being related to someone doesn't actually give you very much of anything at all in terms of
we've got no legal power over anyone unless we donate our power to them, and that's the whole point of lasting power of attorney. And Charlotte calling him a what-if document is absolutely spot on. We know a will be used. I've yet to meet someone that's immortal, so we know you get your will set up and you know, push that down the line, you know that's going to be used. What you want to do with the lasting power of attorney is make sure that it's signed, dated and witnessed correctly, that it's valid. Then you choose whether, as and when you decide to register it with the Office of Public Guardian. But you hope that your attorneys actually never have to step into your shoes, because that means you've had your health.
Yeah.
But if you don't, if you're the one that life throws a curveball at, you've done something amazing again, because now your family, at a really difficult time, that's not made more difficult because they literally can just step into your shoes and say, right, okay, what do we need to do? And if you've ever tried speaking to any institution or company where you're not the account holder, obviously you just get a brick wall saying you're not passing data protection and we can't help you.
Yeah.
Understandably.
I think most people, if they've been to a funeral or if they've been in a situation where there is a bereavement at all, I know not everybody has, I think most people almost would accept that they can be very tense times in terms of family. Because, as I say, I remember when my grandmother passed away, and we had my dad's family, who we hadn't seen for years because they were basically crooks and not very nice people, you know, thugs basically. And suddenly they're all there. And they're taking all the valuables and pinching them out the cupboards before we've even gone to the church to bury the lady. You know, and it's stuff like that, and it can be as important as excluding as it is including. But I wish if I could take what was in my head, and Ian and Charlotte could do the same, and we could beam it to you. You're intelligent people, most of you've got it, but I know there'll be a lot of people. I don't know how many tens of thousands of people are sitting there watching right now. But I know that there'll be a large majority who won't do anything. Maybe you've got a will, fair enough. I hope you're happy with it. If you're not, or not sure, if you've done a template and you're not sure, for the sake of 99 quid or 199 for an LPA,
we'll check it for free.
Oh, you'll check it for free?
Check it for free if it's valid and it does what you want it to do. We'll
and with LPAs as well, really?
Yeah, we'll tell you.
There you go. But I hope that you take action tonight, because and especially like if you haven't got an LPA and you lose capacity, what happens then?
That's awful.
It's too late at that point.
So nothing basically.
Well,
you can I say it? You're buggered.
You are and you aren't. The awful thing is there's something called the Court of Protection, which was set up basically to make this easier. And unfortunately, it's not easier.
No.
And the first problem is, you don't know who's going to step forward, if anyone, to basically step into your shoes. So let's assume it is someone that you would want. Unfortunately, rather than having a lasting power of attorney where you name them, they register it with the Office of Public Guardian, and then for want of a better description, they're good to go. Without the lasting power of attorney, they've now got to apply to the Court of Protection what's called a deputyship order. So there's going to be an application fee of £408. You can see on the screen there, there's an assessment fee. The court actually assess you to make sure that you're the right person to get this deputyship order. If they ask for a hearing, that's £494.
Good Lord.
Then, if you're granted a deputyship, you're then supervised by the court, and they charge £320 a year.
Every year.
There's one
until the person dies.
Or they become not capacitated if it's through a something they can recover from.
I see.
But there are loads of horror stories. We know for a fact, because we deal with court of protection applications, that it can take well over a year to be approved.
Good Lord.
So that in itself is problematic.
Yeah.
But even those that are then named as still very limited in what they can do. So there are stories out there, for example, there's a well-documented story where sadly a lady's husband was knocked down in a country lane, he was put into a coma.
Wow.
He controlled all the finances, they'd done the wills but hadn't done lasting powers of attorney. She found herself going through the court of protection. When she finally got the deputyship order, she was then limited in what she could do.
Right.
And her daughter's tuition fees had become payable, but she couldn't pay them because it was over a £500 limit that the court had enforced. So she actually had to apply to the court for permission to pay her own daughter's tuition fees.
Good.
So whilst it's a way forward, you can imagine it's a restrictive way forward.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I'm not talking ill of this gentleman, but if he'd have done a lasting power of attorney, giving his wife power, she wouldn't have had to go through any of that. She would have just been able to do it.
Yeah.
So it says it's that much of a difference. That's how important this document can
also, you know, if you do both, the health and wealth, health and wealth, if you do them both, which I think would be logical, really. So, all right, you're looking at 2 lots of £199, but it's still a hell of a lot cheaper than the £398. It's a lot cheaper. It's actually only a little bit more than the annual fee you would pay with the other document.
It's less than the
That's if you do it
application
yourself.
fee, yeah. And most people, if you've ever seen the court protection application, end up turning to a professional like ourselves or a solicitor. And then, unfortunately, the costs obviously increase because now you're using a professional. It's an understandable route, but it's absolutely horrible, and it's all avoidable.
The old saying of a stitch in time saves 9 is very true here. This gives you, and the offers that Shop on TV have been able to bring you with our relationship that we have with Simpler Law, means you are getting all of these services at, in most cases actually, better than half price. So the family and estate will, normally £209, you're saving 110. It's only costing you 99, so you're actually paying less than, or saving more than you are paying. Then 199 for the lasting power of attorney, which saves you 150. And again, all these are on interest-free monthly instalments if you wish to go that route. 4 times £49.75 for the LPA. And if you want both the will and the LPA, you're looking at 4 times £67.25. So, or basically £269. Basically 400 and I can't do the maths. £469, £468, I think, if you decided to do both lasting powers of attorney and a will. Is that right? I'm enumerate. I'm more creative, you know. It's got to be.
I'm going to guess at about 588, is it? Something like that.
So for 269 plus another 200 is 469. Take off £1, 468.
I trust you.
Yeah.
I write wills
467.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I can do stuff with a calculator, but no. Anyway.
I think if someone had a crystal ball,
yes,
and I'm not dismissing the cost of anything here, but if someone had a crystal ball and they knew the future and they knew that they would need to donate their power to someone, then I'm not saying cost is irrelevant, but of course you do it. One of the reasons you're not going to do it is because you think, oh, I hope nothing bad will happen.
Sure.
But it's interesting to me that when you speak to a lot of people, we'll not spend money on ourselves or our family, but we will spend money protecting a phone or protecting a laptop or a tablet.
Yeah.
We'll even insure toilets, you know, and we'll sometimes.
I just spent £200 on a pair of earbuds.
Yeah, and sometimes you said, you know, someone will insure a car, but say, well, you have to insure a car, but actually legally you only have to insure it third party, but most people insure it fully comprehensive. So we will spend all this money protecting these material things and then forget about protecting ourselves.
And there's no expiry on it, is there? If you get lasting power of attorney, you've got it, and you can
for the rest of your life.
The rest of your life. So, because I could
hope you never need it.
No, that's it.
I hope your family never need it. But if they did, it's an amazing document to have.
Yeah.
Peace of mind is such an important thing, isn't it, Charlotte? And you know, it could be that if, let's say, somebody is diagnosed with an ailment that is going to shorten their life, then sure, you could understand people, right, I definitely need to get an LPA because eventually they will not have the capacity to be able to deal with their affairs. But then there is also the other argument, because maybe a lot of people are saying, well, I don't need an LPA now, but you might just have it in your back pocket because if you've got anyone elderly, but even elderly, I mean, the fact is that the young are not immune or, you know, from the same problems that people of my age
a really
get.
Good point. A lot of people assume with power of attorney that it's for the elderly, because we do see things a lot more like dementia and ill health
Sure.
as you're getting older.
The youngest diagnosis of dementia in the UK is 26.
Yeah.
Is that right? Really?
Yeah, and look, we're not doom and glooming. That's
No.
not
That's not what we're about. No, but
realistic, isn't it?
yeah.
If everyone's got a bank account, might have property, even as we're saying about health, you'll have wishes that only your loved ones will know.
Yeah.
So it's just having that document.
And also, particularly if you're a young family, there are lots of people who get married in their mid-20s or even early 20s. You know, especially if you've got kids involved, you know, these are important documents to have. I think they're essential. Maybe you don't agree with me, but if you imagine now, think about your family and your friends and your situation. And if you were to project to a time in your mind, go to wherever it is in your mind that you would see the future or imagine what it would be like at the time when you have passed away, and what types of relationship and what types of dynamic do you feel fairly certain will happen as a result of your passing away if you have not specifically dictated what you want to happen? So if it's a free-for-all, who's going to fight whom? Who hates them? Who loves them? Who does this? Who's got that? Who wants this? Who wants that? It doesn't take long, because when I think about my own situation, it doesn't take long. It would devolve into a cockfight before, in no time at all. So the fact is, again, will. It's called will because it's your will. You can give your future generation and the people you care about ease, comfort, peace of mind, satisfaction, etc. All those positive things. Or you can leave them with a mess. And you can also leave people you don't like, if there are any, and you don't want involved in have anything to do with you, your future family, or any of your assets, or anything you belong, your money, or anything you own. You have the opportunity, you have the will, you have the way to say no and make sure that they are completely excised from the future life once you've passed away. You're designing the future for the people you care about and eliminating the people you don't care about from it completely. And it's for 99 quid. I mean, crikey, that's a very small price to pay for a big, rosy, bright, colourful future, isn't it? But you've got to act. You've actually got to do it. It's easy to say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it at the end of the show. No. Why don't you do it right this second, right now? We'll wait. Well, we'll just ignore us. We'll talk amongst ourselves.
Charlotte's colleagues will wait.
They will. They will.
Right now, yeah.
033. I keep saying 33. Sorry.
33.
It's because we've got 33. You see, you've got to throw a spanner in the works with the 333. 0333 600 2600. Charlotte's colleagues and Ian's colleagues are standing by or sitting by right now. If you've got any questions, concerns, go ask them now. It's a national rate call. If you're calling on a mobile phone, it'll come out your plan minutes. It depends what your plan you've got, I suppose. If you want to find out, you're kind of tired and you want to go to bed, and although I can't imagine you wouldn't want to continue listening to the three of us for another 45 minutes, then just text the word will in your regular SMS texting service on your phone to the number 66777, and someone will call you back later today, certainly after 11 o'clock, because obviously we want to make sure we're aware of the fact you'll probably be getting some sleep. Or just go to simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. That will take you to a landing page where you fill in a few details, follow along, and you'll secure your deal. These prices are for a limited time only. They are until 5 p.m. on Wednesday, and then they go away. It's the best thing you can do right now. It's the best thing you can do for yourself, I think, full stop, period, the end. I mean, I can't think of anything else I would spend my money on that could be better spent than the money that I'll spend on my will. A
will's it's your last gift to your family. It's the last act on planet Earth. So by making
they will thank you for it, no doubt.
Do you know what? Weirdly, if you've done a will, your family won't know any different because everything will be okay.
Right.
What they tend to do is regret that you didn't, because if you've not made a will, that's when problems can happen.
Yeah.
And then it just makes a very, very upsetting time even more upsetting.
If I'm setting myself up for a fall when I say I've worked hard, because Charlotte say, no, you haven't. But, you know, in all seriousness, I've worked hard for everything that I've got. No one's given me anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, I want to make sure my wife's taken care of, and vice versa. My wife wants to make sure I'm taken care of. At least I believe that's what she's put in her will.
Yeah.
You know,
when you say she wants to make sure you're taken care of.
but, you know, we've got two young boys, and, of course, everything that we've worked hard for, we want to make sure it goes to them with as little fuss as possible, with as little expense, but also, you know, at a time that's right for them. We can only do that by making a will, and we've done that. So we know our last act on planet Earth will be ours.
Yeah.
If you don't make a will, it won't be all, the distribution of your estate and everything you worked hard for won't be your act. No. It'll be basically a set of rules that were designed in 1925, and you'll be given the government will.
Yeah.
So what will actually happen won't be your wishes, it'll be somebody else's wishes, which is a default
there it is,
position.
yeah. So if are you married? If it's yes, then it goes to the spouse.
Yeah.
No, it goes to the kids. If you've got kids, no, then it goes. I mean, it's, I can't even see it from here, but it sort of, if you follow along, do you have parents? Oh, okay. Do you have brothers and sisters, grandparents, aunts and uncles? And then everything goes to the king.
There's nothing personal. It's always an equal distribution. Yeah. There's nothing personal. It doesn't allow for gifts. It doesn't allow for guardianship. It doesn't allow for what age do you want your children. And as important as we keep talking about, unfortunately, not all families are like the Waltons, and you know, families do have breakdown in relationships. And unless you exclude that person, if they're part of your bloodline, the chances are that they're going to inherit when you might have made it clear to your family that you don't want them to. Yeah. So the only way, and I can't stress this enough, the only way that you can guarantee that what you want to happen when you pass away is to make your own will and actually take yourself out of the rules of intestacy. If you die with your own will, it will be your wishes. That's your gift to your family. If you die without a will, well, it all depends on what your family looks like as to how that will dictates the distribution of your estate. In other words, you've got no control over what happens then. And sadly, that's when real catastrophe strikes. And it's all avoidable with a 15, 30-minute conversation with someone like Charlotte. And
a very small price to pay.
Yeah.
And especially, you know, these days, it's a different world to the world I grew up in. And, you know, there are a lot of blended families now. There are a lot of civil partnerships, and civil partnerships are not recognised legally, are they?
No, civil partnerships are.
They are, sorry. Okay, what am I? The common law, sorry, common law partnership.
Yeah. Marriage and civil partnerships are seen through the same lens, if you like. You're either married or in a civil partnership, or you're not. And, and the common thing, I laughed earlier when you said James down the pub. Everyone's got an expert in the pub, and it's often the expert in the pub who might be the Trivial Pursuit champion or the pub quiz champion, who will tell someone that, well, you've been together for 20 years, so you're common law husband and wife.
Right.
But that is not a legal position at all.
Sean and Haley always talk about that. They've been together for...
They don't know.
They don't know. They haven't quite calculated, you know, because Shaylee's getting younger, actually. I don't know if you know. And so they would, if, you know, if one of them passed away, the other would have no claim. And
that's the shock that comes to unmarried partners, is they might have lived together for decades, they might have had a relationship for decades. Everyone will see them as a partnership, but weirdly, the rules of intestacy doesn't see them as a partnership at all. It sees them as two single people who aren't married, because the first question that's asked of the deceased is, are you married or in a civil partnership? The answer is yes or no. There is no caveat, or have you lived together, or do you... So it really is incredibly important that you make your own will to guarantee that what
is a civil partnership then? Is it like a marriage but without the church kind of thing? Or
and it was brought in primarily for same-sex marriage.
Well, I was going to say, because I was trying to think, same-sex marriages... because they are now legal, aren't they, in the UK? Forgive me, I have a 15-year gap. And in the States, and if I mentioned I used to live in America, there are some states where it's still not, I believe, not legal. So I don't know. But that's a particularly precarious situation if you are a same-sex couple. And if you haven't got married, particularly if you've decided not to get married, then just because you could live together for your entire lives, and if one of you passes away and you don't have a will, the other person's getting nothing.
Truthfully, everyone's exposed by the government will, but unmarried partners are even more exposed by it, because there is zero provision. I can't stress that enough. There's no provision. And worse still, even if you are married but you've got children from previous relationships, and Charlotte fixes this every day, you know, in a very short space of time, if you speak to us.
Yes.
But you imagine, and forgive the finger puppets, you imagine Mr. and Mrs. Smith who are on the second marriage and they've both got children from previous relationships. On first death, everything goes to the surviving spouse under the rules of intestacy.
Yeah.
On second death, it will ask if the deceased was married or in a civil partnership, and of course the answer is no now because they're widowed. So it says, have you got any children? And the answer is yes, and it just goes to their children only. Wow. So the first person that dies, it's almost a lottery, and I hate saying that.
Yeah.
The lottery is the first spouse that dies, it's their children that don't inherit a thing.
But
Brilliant.
a family unit.
Yeah. What a brilliant word. Lottery is a good word for it, isn't it? Because
forgive the finger puppets.
No, but what are the chances of winning the jackpot with a lottery? It's the same if you don't have a will. I will be in touch with you very, very soon.
I signed a form that said, before I did a skydive, that I had to disclaim and say that I acknowledged that 1 in 50,000 people died doing a skydive.
No.
Those odds are quite low.
Yeah.
I made a joke amongst the crowd I was with that in the UK, the odds of winning the lottery were 1 in 13 million. That joke didn't go down well when we realised that 1 in 50,000 then seemed short. But
Jeez,
I don't.
Is it really? I'm not going to do skydiving.
I don't necessarily like using the word lottery, but again, you can take yourself out of a bad lottery by literally send a text tonight, speak to one of Charlotte's colleagues now, and honestly, that will be one of the best decisions you've ever made.
It's a minefield, isn't it? And the fact is that unless you're a legal expert, you just don't know. And you could set off a mine at and you could think you've done everything right, and still, boom, it all blows up in your face. Unless you've got an expert who knows where all the mines are, basically navigating you through the field to safety. And that's what these folks do. Charlotte, what is the most heartbreaking story that you've heard from somebody? I'm sure you've got several, from somebody who's not got a will, not had a will.
Oh, gosh, that is really hard because there are so many. But essentially, it's families that are being broken at that point. It's the breakup between families.
Excuse me.
Because if you haven't got the will, more commonly that we see, it's hard to say the most heartbreaking, but more commonly is that there is the merged families. Right. And if there isn't the will, there's children that are missing out, but they all see each other as a family, and it's the breakup between those children, which no one would have wanted. No parent would choose that.
So the children are actually physically separated because of...
Sorry, so if you, as Ian did the finger puppets, if you've got a
go
married
ahead.
couple... and
feel free, finger puppet me away.
If you've got a married couple and one spouse has passed away and it's gone to the other, and that spouse has passed away without a will, it's going directly to their children.
Sorry, yes,
so the stepchildren, that might be an easier way, the stepchildren in that instance are then missing out. And at that point, that's where you see the family breakdown, because this really close family network that has now broken up because there's children arguing over what they should and shouldn't have, when realistically, if they had put a will in place, that would have all been
What are some of the weirdest things that you just wouldn't think this would ever happen but has? Stories, got any of those?
Well, we had a query just at the end of last year, and basically the woman's mother had passed away, and everything had gone to her stepfather because her mum had remarried, and the stepfather's basically disappeared with everything, and she was asking what rights she has because her mum always made it clear that she was going to leave her everything, but her mum didn't make a will. So I think her mum just assumed that it was going to pass to her daughter, or at least be secure for her daughter, and we had to explain that because it's gone to her stepdad, legally her stepfather has no legal relationship with her, and if he has disappeared with the money in the house, unfortunately, he's entitled to do that. Whilst people might think that's morally wrong, legally he's...
Well, there is no morality in law, is there?
No, but legally he's done nothing wrong. And again, you know, some of these things, and they are quite heartbreaking, some of these things are also really frustrating because it could have been solved. I mean...
just by putting a will in place.
There's lots of things you can do around a will. I mean, we've had people, you know, who have lost everything because of something like bankruptcy, and we've had people who've lost everything because they've not planned for inheritance tax that could have been planned.
Right.
I mean, we sort of joked when perhaps we shouldn't, that everything goes to the Crown through the rules of intestacy if you've got family. And you actually made a really interesting point about why isn't this compulsory? But if you think about it, if everyone in the UK planned, then how on earth would the government get £7.5 billion in inheritance tax revenues when people...
It's like the old, in the Middle Ages, it was the, you know, on people's deathbed, the crown or the church vying for the spoils, you know.
Last tax year, the government raked in, the Treasury raked in £7.5 billion in inheritance tax, and a lot of that could have been avoided just by using someone that can plan and give you the correct advice and make sure you're maximising the correct allowances. So it's not a case of a will costing you money. In a lot of cases, it will save your family a small fortune.
So is inheritance tax, does everyone get charged that, or...?
We're all allowed to leave 320... Go on, you tell me this and that. Sorry.
It's fine.
Excuse me, I'm going to get my tea in. Do you mind if I have a little lemon tea?
No, you grab a lemon tea.
Sorry,
no, just as you the other week.
Thank you.
So everyone's entitled to £325,000, just called a nil rate ban, so that's just a standard allowance that everyone's entitled to.
I see.
Depending on your circumstance, it could be that you own property, it's going to children, it could increase, but again, that's something that we advise as we go through the consultation on your personal circumstance, because it can vary in that. But that's the beauty, again, of getting the advice. Because
we'll tell you, because everyone's situation, again, is different. Because, for example, there is no inheritance tax between spouses.
Yeah.
But after second death, there might be. So we
So 99 quid could literally save you thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions if you've got a lot of money.
Yeah, honestly,
You talk to the experts. You know, if I want to invest money in something, I go and talk to an investment expert. You know, if I want my car fixed, I go to a mechanic. If I want my teeth extracted, I go to a dentist. You know, as you say, it's as simple as that.
You don't come to us for a boundary dispute, a personal injury claim. You don't come to us for a divorce. Sorry to rub that in, Rob.
No. But, fortunately, I like my ex-wife, and she likes me, I think.
But if you want to make sure that everything you've worked hard for passes to the people that you want it to pass to, then that's why you speak to someone like Charlotte or a member of her team. The client care team are great. There isn't a scenario they can't help you with. They will hold your hand through the whole process. They'll understand that this might be the first, it might be the only time that you actually give instructions for a will. We'll make sure at the end of it that you're fully informed. You decide what's right for you. Because remember, this isn't our will, this is your will. Exactly.
Well, do you know, it's interesting. Leslie just made a good point in my ear that, and this is very pertinent to me as well. I have very specific. My will is very specific about what happens to me after I die, unless I can get uploaded to the cloud. I'm hoping. So much like your systems. Sorry, it was a conversation we were having earlier about the cloud. Everything's in the cloud, you know. She was. What was the point? What were you saying, Leslie, earlier? It's about how your body is. Is what your funeral is, I was going to say disposed of, but whether you're cremated, whether you're buried, whether you want to donate organs or not don't donate organs. You know, I don't even want an autopsy.
The thing with that list that you're seeing on the screen now is if you look at it closely, it's all about you choose, you decide, you choose. It's your, you know, and it's everything that's personal to you. The rules of intestacy, the government will, it makes none
of that's in there.
No, there's nothing personal. No. It doesn't decide who's actually going to administer your estate when you've passed away, and certainly, as you were just talking about, things as personal as organ donation preferences.
Well, I want to be cryogenically frozen, and hopefully one day they'll bring me back in the future.
Is it Walt Disney that did that?
Just his head.
Just his
head.
You
see, I think that's a bit short-sighted. Because what if they come up with the technology to bring you back, but they can't do head transplants, you know? But as I say, digital. We'll all be digital. We'll just, you know, our consciousness will go up to the cloud. We're all in a simulation anyway.
I was like conspiracy theories. We're in the Matrix right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But no, in all seriousness, the rules of intestacy and, you know, things like funeral wishes are really important. Now, in a will, we'll help you document all of that, but we'll also have a conversation with you about it's really important to tell your family. Because
let's cover that, because that's quite important.
A will, and typically, I suppose, really, not sometimes, typically a will is read after a funeral. But what happens when you decide to do this is there's a sense of purpose for a very short period of time. We will encourage you just to say, right, explain to your family or your loved ones, explain to your kids. Sometimes the kids don't want to hear it, and I understand that, but it's listen, kids, we've made a will with simple law. Either we've let them keep it or we've put the will safe here. And by the way, I know we've never talked about it, but I'd like to be cremated. Job done.
I've had that conversation. I mean, you know, and it's funny because, you know, my lad, by the way, I apologise to my sister's ex-neighbour because I always talk about my son apparently on this show. I'm very proud of him. But, you know, it's not something that is pleasant to discuss, but with your child or for your child with the parent. But it is important that they know, because otherwise, as happened with that family, where the guy had bought his funeral and paid for everything, paid for all of it, and then instead of being buried, which were his express wishes, and not having his organs donated, which were his express wishes, he was cremated and his organs were donated, and the family had to pay for it, even though he'd already paid for a plot.
That must have been devastating.
Oh,
When they found
can you imagine?
Yeah.
And you mentioned, we were laughing earlier about this, and about the fact that when you do have your will and where to put it, don't put it in some kind of lockbox or safe where the family can't access it.
We have had situations where people have put it in a safe and are like, well, who else has a combination? And no one has it, and then it's angle grinder time, unfortunately.
But you also made a good point about don't put it somewhere where somebody who you might want to exclude from the will could get to see it.
This, again, is why we'll talk to clients about their own situation, because sometimes clients will say, well, you know, I want to exclude my son. There's been a breakdown in relationship.
Yes.
We've not seen him for 20 years. And whatever their reason is, we're not there to question their reason. We're there to do what they want to do.
Yes, of course, of course.
So if they say, right, I want to exclude my son, we'll make sure that the will is accurately written. There's a non-provision clause explaining that nothing's to be given to the son.
Right.
Well, you imagine if that's stored at your house, and that son that you've excluded is the first person that hears of your death and goes running to the house and finds the will, or casting aspersions.
But it could happen.
But it's not beyond him.
People do go running as soon as someone with, especially if they've got any assets. I mean, as I say, my personal situation, you know, it's like ants coming out the anthill, you know.
There's two things that I think people often forget about, and I don't want to as condescending or patronising, but sometimes we'll hear parents say that everything will be fine, there won't be any issues, but they forget that they're alive today and their influence is on their family, and they're the ones keeping everything together. And unfortunately, when they pass away, their influence passes away with them. You then throw into that mix grief, and you throw into that mix money, and unfortunately, what was an okay situation can turn sour. And that's not casting aspersions on families, that's just what we've seen over the years. But with a will, you can stop that from happening because they can't go outside the terms of the will. So the will keeps everything right.
Did I just hear that 54% of adults in the UK don't have a will?
It's more than that.
Is it more than that?
Yeah.
All right, how long have we got left on the show, Leslie? 21 minutes, right. And that's Paul, by the way, that gave us that answer. So I just, it's too early for summaries, but I wonder if Charlotte, you could give everyone at home your reasoning for why this is not just a decision to take lightly. It's not just, you know, something to do on a whim. This is not something that, you know, is nice to have, that it's essential and needs to be done. So I'd love to hear that in your words and also, Ian, in your words. So ladies first.
I think for me, from speaking to clients personally all the time, it's that relief that you have, that weight that's lifted off your shoulders that you probably don't even realise that you have. It's the best thing you can do for yourself and your family. And once it's done, that's it. It's there. With a will, you will need power of attorney, should you ever need it. But it's just that peace of mind for you and your family. And I just don't understand why we insure cars, we insure phones, we insure houses, but we won't insure ourselves and our families, or even friends, whoever it would be that you want to protect, because they're the most important things in your life. So
it's a bit like we'll spend fortunes on things we do when we're awake, and yet we buy a cheap old bed for someone we spend a third of our life.
Exactly, yeah. You know? And these are people that are really important to you. From speaking to clients, there's not been one client I've spoken to that's got to the end of a consultation and thought, I wish I'd never done that. Well,
this is what actually, you make a really good point, because here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Just sign up, pay your money, do the thing, and you're going to do the consultation. So be as sceptical as you like. I mean, go in. I mean, I actually recommend you go into it, you know, eyes wide open, and I mean, be prepared for anything. Everything that you've irrationally made big and vivid and bright and real in your head that you think is going to just make this a horrific experience. Do the call, because once you do it, you kind of go, oh, that was none of those things. But if it turns out that Charlotte turns into some kind of monster or vampiric succubus, and drinks your blood by the end of the call, you get your money back. So
he is a good judge of character.
I told you I was a good judge of character.
I was trying to hide it. We almost made it 20 minutes to spare.
No, but that's really valid. You know, and again, I don't want to come across as patronising, but I remember when my youngest was very young and he refused to eat broccoli, and of course I was the exasperated parent going, but you've never tried it.
Yeah.
How do you know you don't like it?
Don't get me started on that.
And I'm not like, and I'm certainly not saying that viewers are going, well, I'm not doing it because I don't like broccoli. But until you've been through the consultation, unless you know what someone like Charlotte knows, you can't possibly know what we can fix for you or make better.
Yeah,
and don't even realise, do they?
And if you are worried that it's going to be this horrific experience, if in your mind when you're doing the consultation you believe it is a horrific experience, you put the phone down and you ask for your money back, and we'll give you your money back. But I promise you that it won't be a horrific experience. It'll be actually unexpectedly light.
And probably eye-opening. I imagine people will probably get to the end of the calls and go, "Oh my God, you'll learn things on the call that we don't have time to cover now."
We ask two things. We ask you to be honest with us so that we can give you the best advice, and we ask you to keep an open mind so we can give you best advice. After that, it's up to you what you do with any advice that we give you. You don't have to accept any of it, but what we guarantee, whether you take our advice or not as we're going through, is the document that you get at the end is the will that you wanted, and will do what you want it to do. Beyond that, we'll also help you make sure that it is definitely signed, dated and witnessed correctly, because if it's not attested correctly, it's not valid. So we don't just hold your hand through the whole process. We make sure that it's going to work as well. And then we're available. If after that, years down the line, you want to change it, you just call us and you change it.
Yeah, and for anyone that's sat there thinking, you know, I'm nervous, I don't know what to expect. There's no question that's too silly. We'll explain everything throughout the process.
Well, I've proven that tonight because I've asked a few doozies, haven't I?
But you're not expected to know anything.
You always say you only know what you can know. And that's
it's
it.
true.
We're there to
you
make
don't
sure
know what you don't know.
Exactly.
You can't know what you don't know.
I've had a conversation with an IT company this week that we're doing some work with, and I had to stop the conversation and say, I'm sorry, guys, I know I'm going to come across as a bit stupid here. I said, but I don't understand. And they actually sort of apologised to me and said, oh, yeah, we assumed. I'm like, but I might as well have turned around to them and said, you know what pasturpes is?
Right.
Which is a well-known term in will writing.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's Latin for per branch. It just means...
I thought it was Latin in there somewhere. Yeah, pasturpes.
Pasturpes, very, very quickly. If I leave my assets to you, but if you've died before me, but I said that I wanted it to pass pasturpes, it would pass down to your children in equal shares, so it guarantees it stays in your bloodline.
Very nice.
And and again, but that's client's choice. Not everyone does it that way. Sometimes they say, well, no, if that person isn't there, then I want this to happen. But guess what? It's control, it's your choice. We don't tell you what to do, you tell us what you want to do.
But also, you're professionals, so you know there isn't anything in the law.
Charlotte is.
Yeah.
And
I know you pass. You know you look after him. I'm sure at work and make sure. Oh, excuse me. Doesn't this chair's got a mind of its own? What was I going to say? Yeah, you're expert. So you don't know a bit of the law, or just part. You know that part and that part and that part, and we'll learn the other bit if somebody calls us. You know all of the laws pertaining to all of this specifically.
This part of the law, yes.
Yes, for specifically for will writing and all of the other
things. As I said, you wouldn't come to Charlotte or anyone in our organisation truthfully for anything other than estate planning.
No, sure.
We make sure that...
Love that, though.
Yeah, and it does mean that we can deal with everything. We don't have to outsource anything. And genuinely, because we do this every single day, there isn't a scenario that we can't help our clients with.
Never had a will fail. Do you know, I always try, if I can, to buy any products that I buy, I'll try to buy from a manufacturer that only makes that type of product, because they specialise in that type of product. Because then you're getting real expertise. Whereas if you've got somebody who makes products and they sell 50 different types of thing, then it's jack of all trades, master of none, isn't it? You are master of this trade and jack of none. And thy will be done, ladies and gentlemen. Look, the prices are absolutely phenomenal, and they are only good, though, until Wednesday at 5 p.m. And here, let's go through them. If you just want the will to start with, now, obviously, the ideal would be that you went for the will and the LPAs, but that's up to you. At least cover yourself with the basics, and that is your will. £99 is the shop on TV price. 4 times 24.75 if you want to spread the cost interest-free. That's completely up to you. It's not compulsory. You can pay all in one go if you wish. You're going to save £110 on your will. The lasting power of attorney is £349. Normally, we have it for £199 or 4 interest-free instalments of £49.75, saving you 150 quid. And then £269 is the price for the shop on TV price for the will and LPA. And if you decided to go for both, you would get those for £467. I'm still thinking it's £468, but anyway. Yeah. So that, otherwise, if you're just going to get one of the LPAs and the will, then it's £269. 4 times 67.25, saving you £289. So with the will and the LPA and the family estate will, you're actually saving more than you're spending. Yeah, it's £468. I was right. I beat Leslie's calculator, apparently.
Oh, right, okay.
She must have put something in wrong, a user error. And remember that the first 250 people will get this incredible book. And they're award-winning as well, Simpler Law, by the way. This literally allows you to log absolutely everything, all your accounts, all your properties, all things like your pensions, all of your logins for everything. And you're basically your entire physical and digital life, along with also all your wishes and stuff. So things that maybe aren't in your will. And in fact, this would be a good thing to store your will with, wouldn't it?
Absolutely,
but let people know where your will is being stored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ian, how do we get in touch?
Dead easy. Charlotte's colleagues are right there now. If you phone 0333 600 260.
The other Charlotte, is she working as well?
She
the
is.
Other Charlotte
you might get the other Charlotte.
To be honest with you, I would hold for her. She's much better. But no, if you sat there thinking, this is something I've always wanted to do, the hardest thing is actually starting the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Because once you start the ball rolling, you'll find that actually...
Well, it's not hard. It's just the scariest thing is getting the ball rolling.
Possibly, but you'll find very quickly there was nothing to be scared of. But
no, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
The team are there right now. They're right there to the end of the show. 0333 600 2600. Obviously, at this time in the morning, if you'd rather not speak to someone, we'll call you back later. All you have to do to facilitate that is text the word, as you said. It's just your normal SMS. Text the word will to 66777, and we will call you back later today. Yeah. You can also go through the website. We can either go through your website and click on the Simple Law link, or you can just go to
Go direct.
simplelaw.co.
We'll give you a QR code next time so people can just click and go directly to it. Yeah.
The easiest thing we find at this time of night, and the easiest thing is to text the word will to 66777.
Yeah.
We will give you a call back, and if you're in the first 250, we will guarantee that you'll get the What My Family Should Know book for free.
Oh, this book is just absolutely something. See, I started a spreadsheet of basically all of this stuff, but there are always things you forget. But it's got mobile phones, online backup and cloud storage, which is where my life lives, online shopping, websites, email, social media, gaming, photography, video. It's all in there. It's great.
Just prompts you to take stock. Again, it's another cathartic. This is another selfless thing. You sit down with a cup of tea on a Saturday morning and start jotting things down. Haley always makes me laugh because she says you should have it from birth. So I don't know any babies have got an account of. Right, but
no,
it has been received really, really well.
Excuse me.
It's an incredibly useful and valuable document, and obviously it complements the will perfectly, which is why, again, as part of an exclusive deal, only through Shop on TV, we offer it for free.
So I do believe, Ian, that we didn't get your rendition of why people should have a will, why it should be mandatory.
I just think that Charlotte absolutely nailed that explanation. But for me, I'm a little bit OCD. I'm a little bit of a control freak.
Yes, me too.
And I also just, when I hear that people haven't got around to making a will, and I know that they've got assets, and I know that they've got family, and especially if I know that it's a blended family, it's a dynamic family. Yeah. Because I know what that can do. It's difficult for me not to. I don't want to be that guy that lectures every single time I speak or meet someone. I just say, look, you should consider making a will. Yeah. But the reality of it is, if you want to control what happens when you're no longer here, the only way to do that is to make a will. Yeah. If you don't make a will...
An official will.
Yeah. And if you're watching this tonight, the one thing I will say is you then can't say that you didn't know about the rules of intestacy.
No, this is true.
There's plenty
Well, you
of people,
can't say we didn't warn you.
No,
really, is what it comes down to, you know.
as cold as that sounds, it's true.
And I like to just say it as it is, you know what I mean?
Well, there's people out there who won't have seen this show, who will genuinely be wandering around thinking everything will be okay. And unfortunately, when they pass away, it won't be. If you're watching this show, the planets have aligned and said you've got an opportunity to do something for yourself now. And if you don't decide to do that and you pass away with the rules of intestacy, well, you knew that was a possibility. And that also means that your wishes genuinely aren't going to be carried out because the rules of intestacy have never, ever mirrored a client's wishes.
No,
never. By the way, the planets actually did align last week, all of them, literally.
I did see that somewhere, but I kind of dismissed it. But, I didn't feel anything. Did anyone feel anything?
No.
I didn't turn into a superhero, which is I was hoping, obviously, for, you know. The gift of flight.
I'm sure some people already believe you are one, Robert.
Thank you. He says all the right things, doesn't he? We were talking about rules of intestacy. Just to remind you, that's the government will. That's what happens when you don't have a will. And as you just said, to reiterate, in all your years, 25 years of doing this, and Charlotte, in your however many years, I won't ask, a lady's work age, you've never, ever had one. I mean, it must be thousands, if not tens of thousands of wills, right? Never had one that matches the rules of intestacy.
250,000 clients.
Yeah, for a start, you can't choose your executors. And that's something we always do with a will.
How do you go about that? How do you choose? What's the best way to choose an executor?
It's your choice. That's the beauty. Again,
so it could be anyone.
Writing your own will. It can be family, friends,
I could choose Ian.
Professional. Yeah, you can choose anybody you like. But again, we give you the advice on what's best for you.
So you would obviously not advise.
Again, it's all about you just making your own choice and it being yours. We give you advice on whether you choose your own family, whether you choose friends, whether you choose a professional. But
there are professional executors as well.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't surprise you to learn. I'm an advocate of what I believe. Funnily enough, I've named a professional in I wouldn't want to be an executor.
No, it's a lot of work.
Really?
No, it's a job, but it depends on, again, it's personal preference, you know. And
so what does an executor do, and what if you appointed one, a professional, what would they cost?
It all varies. It all varies. I mean, some people charge a percentage of the estate. I mean, there are some schemes available where there's next to no cost at all. And again, it depends on the client.
But you can advise all.
Yeah. And again, if the benefit doesn't outweigh the cost of doing something, a client wouldn't do it.
No.
But it can be. It can sometimes be as little as like 1% of the estate. So for every pound. For every pound that's administered,
it's like a small tax almost, isn't it?
Well, it's not a tax.
It's a small deduction, yes.
Yeah. But you'd only pay for something if you saw value in it, and we'd only recommend a professional if it was appropriate to recommend a professional.
Yeah, sure.
But again, and to stress this, it's the client's choice. It's not our will, it's their will.
It's also, as you know, we've been discussing the whole night. Is none of this would all be moot if it was all simple, with everyone was the same. But it's not. You know, if you're watching right now and you can honestly, hand on heart, say that you have an uncomplicated family, then, you know, maybe you don't need a will. But I don't think that exists anywhere on the planet. Families are weird and wacky and complex and dramatic. And, I mean, God, I spent 3 days with my parents and my sister over Christmas. And it was like the wacky races. It's just, you know, that's just families. Families are like that, aren't they? Nobody has I don't think, has a straightforward family. So the question you have to ask is, what state are you leaving your affairs in once you've passed away? When you're no longer around, maybe, and this happens with a lot of people, maybe you are the person that kind of is the anchor for the family. You keep everybody grounded and you keep everybody sane and you know, make sure they don't kill each other. Well, when you're not there anymore, you know, what about pets? Have you got pets? If you die before you're, you know, you leave a dog or a cat, that's very important, you know.
Some clients spend longer deciding what's going to happen to the dog than the fate of the children.
Oh, I believe it. I believe people treat their animals better than they treat other people. They really do. Yeah, and I lived in LA, so I know dogs in handbags and, you know, and dog hotels. That was a dog hotel now in West Hollywood.
Of course there is.
Stuff like that, you know. Dog grooming services.
I can imagine that in the next will that you draft. the client would like to give their dog a bereavement break for 2 weeks in a hotel in California before it comes back.
It wouldn't
But you know
surprise
what?
me sometimes.
Whilst I'm obviously being quite facetious there,
Yeah.
if that's what a client wanted, that's what would be documented in the will.
Could be anything. I mean, I want to be, you know, that's the. I don't know if I can say this.
I think
the joke about
the fact you've paused
Yeah.
that wasn't fair.
I want to be buried bum up so that someone's got a place to keep their bike. That old joke. £99 is the price for a will, ladies and gentlemen. And I think it's good to adopt a sense of humour about this because it's all inevitable. Listen, I'll be completely honest with you, and I don't say this out loud very often. I am enormously fearful of death. Not being dead, but the dying part. I mean, I can't even begin to describe to you how afraid I am of that. But I know at some point the chances are pretty high that I will face it. Unless, again, I get beamed up to the cloud, you know, in 2 years when Elon Musk discovers AGI. But the fact is, it is a fact of life. And I can only hope that I have some solace in thinking that as it happens to everybody, there is some mechanism built in that makes it a fairly sort of, I wouldn't say pleasant, but palatable experience. But it's not about it's not even about you, ladies and gentlemen. It's not even about your process and what happens, you know, to you as you traverse from one side of life to the other. It's what happens after you've gone. That's what this is about. It's about making sure, you know, Ian was talking earlier about how we work hard I think it was Ian, but how hard we work. Look, you know, we've all struggled. You know, I've had periods of my life where I literally clawed my way back up from the bottom of the lowest barrel, and life's hard. And especially if you do get to that point where it's like right now, I'm out the barrel now. I'm back on. I wouldn't say top, but I'm working my way there. Excuse me. And I would hate to think, because my will is that when I pass on, all of that goes to my lad, if he plays his cards right and doesn't annoy me in the meantime. But I would be mortified if all my hard work and all of my effort and struggle and blood, sweat and tears went somewhere else, to where I didn't want it to go, because for the sake of 100 quid. How would you kick yourself for the sake of 100 quid?
It's selfless.
Yeah.
You're doing it for you so that your wishes are carried out and it's your last act on planet Earth. But actually making a will is selfless. Because you did use a throwaway comment that is banded around sometimes, which is, "I'll be dead, I don't care." But if you're really honest with yourself, you make the point. If you were looking down, you could see after, it's like, oh, I didn't want that person to inherit, or I wanted them to have more than that person.
Yeah.
It really is very, very simple thing to do, but it's incredibly selfless. But you've got to get in touch with us so that we can help you.
I think also there's closure even for the people that don't get anything or don't or are not, or you know, or are to be excluded. At least they know it was your will.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they don't know. They literally have no clue. So there could be fights over. Well, I'm sure that it's easy to say, oh, you know, so Rob would have wanted you to have this, or Rob would have wanted you to. But unless my will is in writing, nobody really knows.
No.
So those prices are so good. They really are, and I hope you take advantage of them by Wednesday at 5 p.m. because we're out of time. And all I can say, thank you, Charlotte. I appreciate it. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Rob.
Amazing to work with you. I hope I did an admirable job and you'll have me back again. We'll see you again at some point. And I will see you tomorrow night. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.